The following is a special presentation of the World Baseball Classic. Welcome to Seoul, South Korea for Game 1 of Pool A and the first game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. For the fourth time since 2006, America shares its pastime with the world. Today we're at Gocheok Stadium in the capital city for the opener. The atmosphere is sure to be loud and proud as the host country Korea takes on Team Israel. Here's an overview of the four pools. Mexico is the host country in Pool D. The defending champion Dominican Republic is in Pool C in Miami. The two-time champion Japan will be the host country of Pool B. And Chinese Taipei and the Kingdom of the Netherlands join the two teams that we'll see here tonight. With that, we say hello again, everybody, and welcome inside our broadcast booth. Paul Severino alongside Major League veteran Joe Magrane. Excited and privileged to bring you the action here from Seoul. You know a thing or two about the WBC. You've called the last two. What are we going to see over these next 3 weeks?
Well, we're going to see something completely different. It is going to be ramped up intensity, and these games have an absolute immediacy. Even if you've had the postseason experience, the major league experience, there's nothing quite like playing for your own country and the patriotism that brings.
And we might be a little bit biased because it's our pool, but we think this could be one of the most intriguing of the four. And it kicks off with a good one here, Team Israel and Team Korea. We begin with Korea, 14-5 overall in World Baseball Classic play over 3 tournaments. They've lost in the semis, in the finals, and a first-round exit last time out. A host country in pool play for the first time, and perhaps some added pressure.
Some added pressure, but I think they can handle it because they do have a lot of experience. And speaking of experience, how about the big bopper, the big boy, Dae-Ho Lee for Korea? Whether he is controlling the strike zone, taking the ball the other way, he is a complete finished product hitter. He is not just a home run, feast or famine type power guy. He is someone that can control the strike zone and obviously a big time run producer.
For Team Israel, it's their first World Baseball Classic. They won the qualifier in Brooklyn, New York back in September, and what they do lack in WBC experience, they make up for in big league experience, both offensively and with their starter tonight, Jason Marquis.
Well, a 15 major league career and also through 10 of those to the postseason and also pitching, of course, in a World Series, and he was able to really lead Team Israel last time with incredible command down in the strike zone, and that's what he's going to be able to utilize, that sinker, to really use the resistance of the lineup against him and use his defense. And why not? No better idea than to utilize Super Sam Fuld in center field. There isn't a landmass that he can't cover to his left, to his right, back to the center field wall, and we have cut this actually short. We could go on for a half an hour. There's not a ball in the air in the outfield that Sam Fuld can't catch it. He's going to get plenty of opportunities, Paul, to do that tonight.
We are looking forward to it. We're excited, and the world is excited. The World Baseball Classic is about to begin, and it starts here in Seoul, South Korea. Israel and Korea is coming up right after this. It's about that time for the 2017 World Baseball Classic. So excited to bring this to you as it all begins in mere moments. Game 1 of Pool A. And here we go. Let's take a look at Team Israel's starting lineup, put forth by their manager, Jerry Weinstein. Talked about Super Sam Fuld off the top. Terrific defense for him. He missed last season with a shoulder injury. Ty Kelly, Blake Galen behind him. Nate Fryman He beats up lefties in his career. A .279 hitter with 9 homers. He'll face a lefty here today. Zach Borenstein, Cody Decker went 3-8 with a homer in the qualifier. Bat 6th, Ryan Lavarnway, Tyler Krieger, and Scott Burcham, who was 5 for 11 with a double and 3 runs scored in the qualifier. He will bat 9th. Hwan-Jun Jang is a 31-year-old starting pitcher. This is his second WBC. One start in 2013, got a no decision against Chinese Taipei.
Well, he's the type of left-handed pitcher that really relies on moving the ball around in the strike zone. His slider is probably his best pitch, although it is a secondary pitch. Let's take a quick look at some of the scouting reports, a couple of quick bullets. It is the 4-pitch mix. He'll add and subtract and move it around on both sides of the plate. Not overpowering, that finesse type of pitcher, kind of a crafty left-hander. You've heard that before. And of course, playing in front of the home folks, the home crowd. Korea hosting the Pool. He'll get a big adrenaline rush, and very important for him to control those emotions here in the early going.
Let's take a look at the defense behind him. Go left to right in the outfield first. Young-hun Min, Young-kyu Lee, and Asap Sun left to right. Terrific defender at third base. Kyung-min Her, Jae-ho Kim, Gun Chang Sao, and Dae-ho Lee is at first, with Uiji Jang behind home plate. This place is going to get loud in a hurry, and it will be loud throughout. Sam Fuld heads toward home plate. This is where it all begins in Seoul, South Korea, the first game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. 4th time around, Korea and Israel to begin things.
And why not just hack at the first one, Paul?
Let's see what Sam Fuld does. Jang deals, and we are underway here in Seoul. Sam Fuld, 35-year-old from New Hampshire. Again, missed all of last season with a shoulder injury. Known mostly for his defense, which is superb. The 0-1 from Jang. Swings and lines one to center field. In his tracks is Lee. One away.
Very comfortable swing and at bat by Sam Fuld. Not only a good take, but really squared that ball up.
A good look there at Jerry Weinstein, the manager of Israel for this 2017 World Baseball Classic. Was with them in the qualifier as well, led them to a 3-0 record. He's going to serve as the manager of the Hartford Yard Goats, AA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies in 2017. Ty Kelly digs in, shows bunt, and pulls it back. A ball and no strikes to the 28-year-old from Dallas, Texas. A 13th round pick of the Orioles in 2009. Defense straight up behind Jang, who deals. A called strike. In-Shik Kim on the left. Leading host team Korea for the 3rd time, was the manager in 2006 and 2009. The 1-1 to Kelly. Swings. And it's Her. Playing the funky hop for out number 2, and that's the thing about this surface here at Go-Chuk Stadium. It's very hard surface. The ball is going to get on infielders in a hurry. It's going to get on outfielders in a hurry, and it's going to get to the wall in a hurry. So imperative for these teams to perhaps at least consider putting their best defenders out there. And Her is one of the best.
Yeah, we met with all of the coaching staffs in the Pool and players as well, and they've talked about this being the fastest, the hardest surface that they have played on. And it is, you're right, not confined to the skipping hops and irregular hops and speed in the infield, but also in the outfield, to where the outfielders will have to be playing deeper to cut balls off from going into the gap.
It'll be an 0-1 to Blake Galen. 31-year-old skies this one down the left field line, giving chase, and off the netting, and a foul ball. Now that netting down the lines goes basically all the way to the corner. On a play like that, just something to keep in mind. Obviously, if it hits the net it's a dead ball. But on a thrown ball or a ball that bounces, that netting is in play.
So it is like playing inside. It's got an kind of an arena effect to it.
That's right. Be aware. Some ground rules with the roof as well that we'll get into. And 0-2 to Galen. So again, obviously being a dome, and Joe, you're familiar with Tropicana Field in Tampa, the home of the Tampa Bay Rays, it can get a little interesting. So there are some markers up near the ceiling. See that yellow line across. If it hits that or goes beyond it, it's a home run. If it hits anything in front of it and in fair territory, it's in play. Galen frozen on strike 3. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Jang. We'll see Team Korea hit when we come back. Welcome back to Go-Chuk Stadium here in Seoul, South Korea. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. There will be plenty of those thunder sticks here as Team Korea takes on Team Israel. We head to the bottom of the first inning. Jason Marquis set to deliver his first pitch of the WBC to Young-Kyo Lee, who takes ball 1. Marquis, a 38-year-old from Long Island, New York, won 124 games in his 15-year major league career, showing bunt, pulling back, and now 2-0 to the center fielder Lee.
Yeah, Jason, throughout the course of his career, has always been one of those guys who could throw seemingly all day. Been able to throw a lot of innings. I talked to him after the Brooklyn WBC qualifier. He said he never really got that sore in between starts, which is, I guess, why he was able to join Team Israel so late and then pitch so well to allow them to advance to where they are today.
Lee swings and lines it right to Ty Kelly for out number 1. So Young-Kyo Lee is retired. Let's take a look at the rest of the lineup. Put forth by In-Shik Kim. Lee followed by Gun Chang Sao. Tae-Kyun Kim is the DH. Dae-Ho Lee, mentioned him before, hit .253 with 14 homers in 104 games with the Seattle Mariners last year. Gun Chang Sao takes strike 1. Another guy to perhaps keep an eye on is Asap San, the right fielder, who will hit 5th in this lineup for Team Korea. Now the 0-1. Jason Marquis is a guy who, Joe, as you've mentioned, is going to pitch to contact, and that's perfect for this particular format. And as a ground ball pitcher, he will specifically use his defense on the infield, and that infield defense right now imparting a shift with just one infielder on the left side of the infield in Ty Kelly. The other 3 swung around to the right side. As that one misses 3 balls and a strike.
You know, I know it's very early, but it's just something as a former pitcher that we see that the ball is not coming out of his hand in the way that he would like right now. It's just the timing is out of phase with his delivery. And you see a guy that has that type of control where every one of those pitches were really not in areas that he wanted them to be. Let's look at the scouting report. He has that very sneaky sinker. He's going to utilize his defense when right, started around the knees and coached ground balls. He's a little bit more lengthened out than he was in the qualifier, to where he feels like he has a little bit more stamina in his pitching. And of course, Mr. Postseason, 15-year major league career, and in 10 of those years, the teams that he were on advanced to the postseason.
Tae-Kyun Kim digs in, 34-year-old, making his 4th appearance in the World Baseball Classic. Infield back to straightaway or double play depth with runner on and 1 out. The first pitch to Kim is in there for a called strike.
Well, he's thinking double play right now, but the last couple of throws that led to the base on ball. Let's see if he just tries to spin one here in an effort to try to get his arm out front and kind of correct his release point. There it was. Sometimes that's the cure of all ills, because you've got to do more things right. You have to stay back over the pitching rubber.
get that arm out front and really get over yourself to be able to spin it. And then sometimes that corrects the inaccuracy of the fastball, allowing you to find that release point.
The 0-2 from Marquis. Trickles away a little bit from Lavarnway, but no advance at first from So.
Biggest challenge of a pitcher, even a guy with good control like Jason Marquis, is in that first inning after throwing those warm-ups in the bullpen, and it is a very unusual setup here at Sky Dome, is to get acclimated early.
Runner bluffs, and he bluffed early, but a swing and a miss as Kim is retired. Now, one thing to keep in mind with Jason Marquis is that he actually started 2 games in the qualifier in Brooklyn, and he did so because Team Israel was very cognizant of these particular rules and regulations. These are the pitch limits. You can throw up to 65 pitches in a game in round 1. It goes up to 80 in round 2, 95 in round 3. But in terms of per start or per outing, 4 days off if you go north of 50 pitches. So something to keep in mind today is Marquis. If I'm taking a guess, he's at 49 tonight and not north of that, so that they can utilize him again in this tournament if need be. Dae-Ho Lee takes the ball in the dirt, 1-0.
Well, you're right. He is one of their better pitchers, and Jerry Weinstein told us that he is not going to go over 50 pitches, so he can have him as a quick turnaround. And this is the one guy that Jason Marquis is very aware of in the lineup. As we said right off the top, this is not just a guy swinging a big Ruthian bat. He is a very good hitter. He runs counts. He is selective. If you're trying to just pound him away, he'll flip the ball in the right field. He is not just learning to turn on the ball and trying to hit it in seats and make himself vulnerable in other areas in the strike zone. Good hitter.
He takes a called strike, 1-1, and a veteran hitter at that. 34 years old, 3rd World Baseball Classic. He had .455 in 2013 after hitting .278 in the 2009 tournament.
So it's power and average. He's the Miguel Cabrera.
Swings and routine ground ball to short. Bertram goes the short way, and Jason Marquis works around the walk. We're an inning into it here in Seoul, and we're scoreless. Welcome back to Seoul. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you as Nate Fryman digs in for Team Israel. 4, 5, and 6 due up here in the top of the 2nd inning. After Fryman, it's Zach Borenstein and the DH Cody Decker. Jang delivers ball 1. He was efficient in the 1st inning, Joe. 9 pitches, 7 for strikes. And now he gets to face the middle of the order here for Team Israel.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the pitchers that can be successful in this type of format. Because of the pitch count limitations, it's not like you can ride one hot hand all the way through the pool. You have to use your pitching staff very judiciously and obviously keep an eye on the pitch counts. In the WBC qualifier, Jason Marquis was incredibly economical. A lot of outs early in the count. Jang doing that in the 1st inning. Looked like he really settled down quickly.
The 2-0 to Fryman misses. 3 balls and no strikes. Fryman, 30 years old, from Washington, D.C., taken in the 8th round of the 2009 draft by the Padres out of Duke, where he actually met his wife, Amanda Blumenhurst, who's a professional golfer, and Fryman served as her caddy. Hitters count 3-0.
Well, you got to give them huge kudos to both of them if that works out as a long-term golfing relationship.
I would say so. Zach Borenstein waits on deck. 3-1 from Jang. And Fryman walks to lead things off here in the second. Wonderful to get out here to Seoul, South Korea, walk around the city a little bit. My first trip out here, a beautiful city. And Korea, Chinese Taipei, the Netherlands, and Israel making up Pool A. Korea lost to Japan in the WBC final. Kingdom of the Netherlands getting to the second round in the last 2 WBCs. And as we said before, again, pardon our bias, but this could be one of the most intriguing of the 4 pools as Borenstein swings and rips one into right field. Cut off in the right field corner by Son, but into second is Borenstein with a double.
Boy, I was watching Borenstein in batting practice, and it's not like he was like filling up the seats with home runs, but he was hitting a lot of balls just really on the nose, low, vicious line drives. He jumps on that breaking ball that's just kind of rolling away from him and really is able to get a lot of leverage on it into the pull field, and it was hit so hard, and it illustrates how fast this track is. And Son doing a beautiful job to keep this ball from going to the wall, may have saved a run. Whether it's the infield, even the dirt, or the surface in the outfield, it is fast.
Quick meeting on the mound as the pitching coach tries to settle down Jang. And that's the thing, is that, all right, sure, it's the top of the second inning and there's a couple of runners aboard, but every game is crucial in the World Baseball Classic. Everybody's going to play at least 3 games. There is a potential for a tie-breaking game to figure out who moves on to Tokyo. As Cody Decker digs in, 30-year-old out of California will bat with runners on second and third, and nobody out here in the top of the second. Checks his swing, and it's 1-0.
Well, that's like what we were saying right off the top, Paul. The format of this is unlike any other, as there's just such a finality, and the game moves so quickly where you've got one bad inning or just a couple of bad pitching sequences could not only define the game, but your fate within this pool.
Again, third time as the manager for In-Chik Kim. Was not part of the 2013 qualifier, or a tournament rather, but in 2006 and 2009 was Korea's manager.
And enjoyed meeting with him a couple of days ago, a man of great wisdom. And
Decker chased that one about a foot outside, and it's 1-2.
But it looked like a good pitch to hit. Watch, it's kind of a turnover change with a lot of fade to it, where it has enough elevation to it, but by the time Decker is taking that weak swing, it is outside the strike zone. That's the beauty of getting ahead, to where you create the look of strikes and the hitter swings at balls.
Now the 1-2. May have tried something similar, but misses. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Decker, a 22nd round pick of the Padres in 2009 after he led the Pac-10 in home runs at UCLA. Big tall Fryman off of third, and Borenstein with a double off of second. The 2-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Second strikeout of the night for Jang, and there's one away here in the second.
He's got a feel for that pitch, and it is delivered with great arm speed, to where it just kind of sells the fastball, and it's a little turnover, and you see he had 2 swings that were very similar. He is a power hitter, and there will be no power in a swing like that.
That'll bring up Ryan Lavarnway with a couple of runners in scoring position. 29-year-old out of California. 6th round pick of the Red Sox from Yale in 2008. Chance to get Team Israel on the board here in the top of the second inning. And he takes low, a ball and no strikes.
For Jang, that was an outstanding pitching sequence to Decker with runners on second and third. And It's one of those situations where strikeouts are great when you need to get them.
Fryman not a very aggressive lead off of third. A step, maybe two. The 1-0. Lavarnway set an Ivy League record with 33 home runs in his 3 years at Yale. Was part of the qualifying roster as well and homered for Team Israel to help them get here. And they won that qualifier in Brooklyn, New York back in September. 2-0 from Jang. Well, he's favoring that outside corner, that left-handed batter's box side.
Well, that's really the safe space. Left-handed pitcher to right-handed hitter. You have to do more things mechanically right to square that ball up, down and away. And he's looking for some weak contact, although the infield is playing back in the middle, conceding a run. Just have to make him continue to bring it in a little bit more to where you can get the arms extended and barrel it up. But that kind of little turnover Scroogey fade changeup type pitch is one that looks like a strike, and he delivers it with great arm speed.
Now the 3-1. That misses outside for ball 4, and they are loaded with one away. Beautiful venue here in Seoul, South Korea. Gochuk Sky Dome opened in 2015. Really a pristine, beautiful, brand new ballpark from the outside. You may have seen a shot of it in our open. 325 down both lines and 400 to straightaway center field. So after the second walk of the inning, Tyler Krieger digs in with the bases loaded. And he takes outside for ball 1.
He is continuing to nibble on that outside part of the plate. Seems like he does not want to come in and throw one in the strike zone unless he has to.
Fryman, Borenstein, and Lavarnway, your runners. A 1-0 from Jang. 2 balls and no strikes. Well, for as efficient as he was in the first inning, he's had a little bit of trouble as he deals here to Tyler Krieger. Krieger, a 23-year-old out of California.
Boy, unless he is super confident on locking in down and away, he's got to throw one in the fat part of the plate to Krieger, who was really in batting practice trying to stay in the middle of the field, center and right center field. It's the way that hitters keep that front shoulder, the front hip, to where they continue to cover the plate and the bat stays in the strike zone a long time.
9 pitches in the first inning. This will be number 19 here in the second. And chop foul. For Krieger, drafted by the Indians in the 4th round of the 2015 draft out of Clemson. And Baseball America ranks him as the number 18 prospect in the Indians organization entering this season.
6'2", 170 pounds, looking to get a little bit stronger, but some real good actions at the plate.
Jang delivers a 2-1 in the dirt and smothered by Yang. 3 balls and 1 strike.
You know, those such a huge difference between being ahead or behind. When you're ahead in the count, those are the pitches that look like good pitches to hit, to where the hitter is more on the run. But when you have the luxury in this situation to spit on those pitches, that puts all the pressure to really try to cash in on a good fastball to hit here.
Scott Bertram waits on deck. The 3-1 coming from Jang to Krieger. 3-2.
A couple of pitches in this sequence that Krieger would love to have another hack at. Eyes get really big in that hitting situation. A real good ball to hit, just a little too quick.
Bases loaded, full count. Top 2 here in Seoul, the opener of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. And that is how the first run is scored on a bases loaded walk. 1-0 Israel. Third walk of the inning for Jang.
Yeah, and the real sin about that, Paul, is a lot of that stuff happened where Fryman, a guy with big power and a lot of holes, got that inning going with the leadoff walk, and a lot of pitches outside the strike zone where Jang wasn't quite as aggressive, or the plate kind of bounced around on him in the bottom part of the order. That's where you want to be a lot more aggressive.
And now it's Scott Bertram who takes a called strike. The 23-year-old from California, 25th round pick of the Rockies in 2015. Had a really good qualifier in Brooklyn back in September. 5 for 11 with a double and 3 runs scored. Bornstein, Lavarn Way, and Krieger your runners. The 0-1. Chase that one 0-2.
Yep, we've seen a lot of these pitches that have been fading down and outside the strike zone. Now this is a ball, but why the hitter swings at it, what I was telling you earlier, is because the hitter is behind in the count, and then he starts to chase more. So you have to work from an aggressive standpoint by being ahead. If you're behind, the hitter takes those pitches.
Bertram swings and misses. Strike 3. A huge strikeout for out number 2.
Same pitch. That one was a little bit more crisp and a lot of action. And again, not a strike. Saw Cody Decker make these type of flailed front foot type swings. And this time Bertram does the same thing. And another big strikeout for Jang.
Back to the top of the order for Team Israel, who has a 1-0 lead thanks to the bases loaded walk to Tyler Krieger. And now Sam Fuld, who lined to center field to lead off, well, really lead off the World Baseball Classic.
And in this inning, as we told you about the pitch count limitations, Jang is running him up there already with 35 pitches.
And there is action in the Korea bullpen. Fuld, the chopper to first. Lee, flip, foot race, got him. Wiggles out of what could have been a huge inning, but surrenders a run. A 1-0 lead for Israel. Zach Borenstein with a big double to set the stage for the inning. And the walk to bring home the run. 1-0 through an inning and a half. Welcome back to Seoul. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. Jason Marquis has a 1-0 lead to work with into the bottom of the second inning as the host team and the host country, Korea, digs in. 5, 6, and 7 due up as Asap Sam, the right fielder, is behind in the count. No balls and a strike.
And this is a guy that Korea wants to see leading off an inning, because more than anyone else in their lineup, this guy can really motor. He's got some wheels.
28 years old, making his second appearance in the World Baseball Classic. He went 1 for 4 in the 2013 tournament. He's played all 10 of his KBO seasons with the Lotte Giants. Jason Marquis bounced around a little bit more in his major league career. A big swing and a miss even up the count, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Yeah, a lot of the pitches previously, Marquis was just kind of throwing those pitches with touch, and that one he put a little bit more mustard on it, and enough to take the hat off of Song. And again.
That's right. Second strikeout of the night for Jason Marquis. Let's take a look at the defense behind Jason Marquis. So go left to right in the outfield to start. Galen, Fuld, and Borenstein, third to first. Kelly, Bertram, Krieger, and Fryman, with Ryan Lavarnway behind home plate.
Israel, coming out of the WBC qualifier in Brooklyn, was more of a kind of a right-handed power plotting type team, and Jerry Weinstein, their manager, really likes the fact that they have more balance, a little bit more speed, and the ability to play more athletic defense. And Jason Marquis is the type of pitcher that can utilize that, although he's still kind of fighting himself with his release point.
The 1-0 to Byung-Hyun Min is in there for a called strike. You couldn't tell if this was the first inning, the 9th inning, if it's 10-0 Korea, or Korea's losing 10-0. This is going to be the great atmosphere throughout. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to listen to and certainly be a part of as well.
They've got the cheers, the thunder sticks, the songs, the chants, the
inside spins Min away, and 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Another one of those pitches that Marquis would tell you, like the feel of it, it's kind of coming out of his hand like a wet bar of soap.
2-2 to Min, swings, lines a base hit into left field. First hit of the tournament for Team Korea, and he is aboard with 1 out.
He's kind of fighting himself in his release point and tries to spin that ball away, and it just kind of hangs up and rolls, not with a lot of finish, to where Min can just kind of front foot it off the end of the bat, kind of a little humpback liner into left.
Min, the KBO All-Star Game MVP last July, takes his lead off of first base as Uiji Yang, the catcher, digs in. 29 years old, Rookie of the Year in the KBO in 2010. And sends this one high in the air, but not deep, toward left center field. And it's Galen for out number 2. So, as the tournament begins here today, something to keep in mind: Seoul, Tokyo, Miami, and Jalisco are the first round sites. The winners from Seoul and Tokyo move to Tokyo. Miami and Jalisco go to San Diego, and everybody meets in the championship round in Los Angeles. We talked a little bit about the pitch limits. Something else to keep in mind is the early termination rule. If you're up by 15 after 5, it's over. If you're up by 10 after 7, it's over. But a 1-0 game to this point here in the bottom of the second, as Kyung-Min Hur, the defensive-minded third baseman, takes ball 1.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Paul, just based on the personnel. You're talking about the elimination game. I think we're going to see nothing but just grinded out games with these 4 evenly matched teams.
Hur swings, chops this one to third. And again, the short way to second to end the inning. When we come back, Major League Baseball's Commissioner Rob Manfred joins us in the booth next. Welcome back to Seoul, Israel, with a 1-0 lead as we head to the top of the 3rd inning inside our broadcast booth. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, and very happy to be joined by the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. Rob, thanks so much for taking the time. How you feeling? You all right?
I feel great. I feel great. You know, it was a long flight, but I'm happy to be here. We got a nice crowd tonight, and glad to have the WBC going.
Yeah, we are very excited to be here, and frankly privileged to be the ones to kick everything off as Ty Kelly kicks things off here in the top of the 3rd. 2, 3, and 4 due up for Team Israel. So, of course, you've been part of the commissioner's office for a while, but the commissioner, this is your first WBC. How has this different, I guess, responsibility-wise leading up?
Well, in prior WBCs, I had a venue that I was responsible for. I go to Puerto Rico, for example, and stay. This time I'm going to be here tonight. I'll be in Japan tomorrow. I'm going to hit Miami at the end of the week, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how to get to Guadalajara, but I haven't got that worked out yet.
Do you need tickets? I can maybe make a phone call.
Yeah.
Line shot by Kelly, and there's one away. Now, something tells me you won't have a problem getting tickets.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be able to get in, but it is exciting to have baseball played, particularly in venues where they don't ordinarily see major league players, and it's a great opportunity to internationalize the game.
This is Blake Galen with one away. Speaking of venues, what goes into choosing where everything is? Obviously moving pool play round 2 in the championship round.
Well, it is basically a bid process, although we do have certain predilections. We like the early pools to be outside the U.S. to the extent possible. We're very interested in having both Korea and Japan as pools this time around. Both countries have been great supporters of the event from the very beginning. They've always had really competitive teams and a lot of interest in having the games both here and in Tokyo.
You're talking about the beginning, isn't it amazing with this being the 4th WBC, how much this has really grown?
It's unbelievable. I think each and every time the event has gotten better. It's gotten better in terms of quality of play, numbers of countries, revenue generated. And we're really committed to the event going forward. We think it's an important part of our international strategy.
2 balls and 1 strike to Blake Galen, who struck out back in the first inning, as Jang gets set to deal the 2-1. On the ground and underneath the glove of the shortstop, Jae-Ho Kim.
Joe, maybe the best and most interesting part of the growth that people don't focus on is the competitiveness of some of the teams from countries you don't ordinarily think of as baseball countries. I was talking to a bunch of the Netherlands players in the hotel lobby this afternoon, and they may be the best team here.
I know, it's truly amazing.
That'll bring up Nate Fryman, who walked and has scored the lone run of the night. Get a good look there at Jerry Weinstein. Commissioner, obviously this is, I'm just looking here at the notes, more than 2.4 million fans from all over the world. And we say this all the time, the World Baseball Classic, among the many different pieces of it, is to help grow the game worldwide. And so many more fans are seeing this game on TV, on their computers, but also up close and personal because you're able to be all over the world.
It really is an opportunity for people who don't ordinarily have the opportunity to see the best players in the world play. We also think it's important from a growth perspective because of the funding that the federations in these countries receive from the WBC, and they can use that funding for development in their countries and improve the quality of play in the country.
Yeah, and we actually saw that when Joe and I did the qualifier in Brooklyn. A team like Pakistan, who's in its infancy when it comes to baseball, and now they're part of the tournament, I guess on the outskirts because it was a qualifier, but between this tournament and the last one in 2013, there was the qualifier involved. So now we're not just mixing in the 16 teams that are in the tournament proper, but even more teams who are trying to get into the tournament through the qualifiers.
Yeah, I think the qualifying has been a real improvement in the event. The idea that you're having that play in between WBC years. You have countries outside of the core 16 that want to be part of the event that have higher quality play now. I think it's a great development for the sport.
Fryman swings and tips it right into the glove, but hung on to by Uichi Yang for out number 2.
Jang able to pull the string a little bit on that pitch, and when he has been ahead in the count, that has been a very effective pitch. That kind of diving, fading kind of turnover change, and you see a lot of those front foot, I'm fooled type swings. And if he's able to get ahead in the count, that makes that pitch really that much better.
That'll bring up Zach Bornstein, who doubled back in the second inning. Forgive me for asking this while we're, like 25 pitches into this first game of the WBC, but next time around, how is this going to continue to grow?
Well, I think you're going to see growth in the size of the qualifiers over time. I think that there will be additional countries who will be interested in participating in the event, and our goal has been to try to accommodate those countries by allowing the event to evolve as we move forward.
Jang delivers a 1-0 to Bornstein in there for a called strike. Obviously, there is a partnership between the league itself and the Players Association. And then I know that building rosters can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Who's ready? Who's hurt? Who wants to travel? From your perspective, how has that gone?
Well, look, the partnership piece with the Players Association has been a huge positive way beyond the event. It's an opportunity to work together. It's helped us build a relationship that has served us well in other, maybe more important aspects of the game. The rosters can be a challenge. It's something that we're going to have to continue to work on. But I think we did much better this year than we did the last time around, and we're going to get better again the next time.
We're excited for it. A caught stealing means you're out of here. So we are going to say goodbye to the commissioner. You're traveling the world. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, Paul.
Back in a moment. Welcome back to Seoul, South Korea. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain. Once again, a very special thank you to the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, for spending a little bit of time with us here. Obviously, this is a tournament that is near and dear to the hearts of Major League Baseball and its Players Association. I know that the Commissioner and his team will be bouncing around the globe as this World Baseball Classic kicks off in earnest. We get the pleasure of the opener here today. Tokyo kicks off tomorrow, and then Mexico and Miami a couple of days after that. Jason Marquis, 0-1 pitch is fouled away. 9-1-2 due up for Korea here in the bottom of the third. They trail at 1-0. Jae-Ho Kim, the shortstop, leading things off, and then it's Young Kyu Lee and Gun Chang Sao at the top of the order. Pitch number 32 from Jason Marquis.
It's something when you look at the scoreboard, and if you're Israel, you like the way that it looks, but Jason Marquis, and with that experience and the bulldog that he has been throughout the course of his career, he has not really found it. He hasn't found his release point, and it has been a battle, but he's been able to keep these hitters in between and still collect outs. And that's really the mark of a good pitcher, is to kind of just meander through that lineup and look for soft spots in it.
Israel
and still compete when you don't have that good stuff.
Yeah, and Israel is back at it. A quick turnaround. They get the primetime game here local time, and they are back at noon against Chinese Taipei in Taipei's opener, and then Korea is back in the late game tomorrow against the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So Israel will have already played 2 games by the time the Kingdom of the Netherlands gets to take the field, but that's the way it goes, and I think all these teams are just going to be happy once they get things going. Israel and Korea get it going first.
Yeah, we haven't seen Gangnam Style yet. Can that be too far off?
It's early. 0-1-0. In there for a called strike. Young Kyu Lee, the center fielder, lined out to third base back in the first inning. Third appearance in the WBC for Lee. I'll mention the elephant in the room. That leg kick that he's got is something flashing.
Well, that's not only a leg kick, that's an extension into some type of a ballet move. You have the traditional leg kick, and then he extended with the foot out. And it's a timing mechanism and a challenge sometimes. Look at this. It's up and it's out, and then that's the actual challenge with it, is trying to maintain that timing.
Well, he's lined out to both sides, both positions on the left side of the infield. The 2 away here in the third.
They have a handful of hitters in their lineup like that are just trying to play pepper and just kind of pop it around and create some bases on situation for Dae-Ho Lee, who is not on deck but in the hole.
This is Gun Chang Sao taking a called strike. 27-year-old, the 2014 KBO MVP. Led the league with a 370 average that year. Became the first player in KBO history to collect 200 hits in a season. But he swings through that one 0-2.
Of course, everybody remembers how Ichiro hits, but kind of the Asian style of hitting is there's like your little float towards the pitcher and the hands stay back, and it's not like getting that front foot down and hitting off a firm front side. It's just a very timing oriented mechanism where you just kind of float towards the pitcher and then serve it.
Serves that one towards short. Tough play. Safe. An infield single. Good effort there by Krieger, who was actually playing closer to the middle. In the shift, they had Burcham in short right, but unable to complete the out.
Yeah, and as often we have mentioned how fast the track is here, you think you really have a chance to make a play like this, but this far over to that side of second base for Krieger really could not get as much on the throw as he wanted, and so runs very well.
So a runner on at first for Tae-Kyun Kim, the DH, who struck out back in the first inning. This will be pitch number 42 for Jason Marquis. Runner goes. No throw from Lavarnway. And it's a stolen base for So.
Well, there are good jumps, and then there are ones when you are off to the races. And So got more than that. You get a look here. Marquis is set, and he hasn't even committed towards going to the plate, and no need for Lavarnway to wing it down there to second base. That was stolen off of Jason Marquis.
So he gets set to throw his 43rd pitch. And again, for us, we think that the key number is 49 pitches. Zach Thornton warms in the bullpen. Because if he gets to 50 pitches, again with the rules, if you get to 50 pitches, you need 4 days off. There aren't 4 days to have off if he wants to come back around. And Jason Marquis started 2 games in the qualifier for Team Israel.
And the weird dynamic about that, Paul, is you can throw 49 pitches, take a day off, and then throw 49 pitches after that. So, you know, basically 98 pitches with 1 day off. But one more pitch puts you over that threshold. I know Jerry Weinstein would like to see him just finish off this hitter right here on this pitch. We're talking about it right now, because he told us that he did not want to see Jason Marquis go over 50 pitches.
Be a 1-2 to the big DH. Swings and strikes him out. So 45 pitches. He's got that veteran mentality. He knows the game plan. We're through 3. Israel up 1-0. Welcome back to Gochuck Skydome. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you as we head to the top half of the 4th inning. Team Israel with a 1-0 lead. Oh, that looks good. Sends him up to the press box. Had an early lunch. Getting a little hungry. Oh, forget it. I'm out. I gotta go grab some food. Oh, I got a job to do. Okay, Zach Bornstein digs in, and he takes a called strike. Bornstein, Decker, and Lavarnway, 5, 6, and 7 due up here in the 4th inning. It was Bornstein's double, part of that 1-run rally in the 2nd inning. Swing and a miss. So Jang now up over 52 pitches. As we were talking about with Jason Marquis, the hope for Team Israel, their strategy was to keep him below 50 pitches so that they could utilize him a second time if need be. But for Korea, it looks like Jang will head full steam to that 65 pitch first round limit.
Well, there you go, trying to be economical and get to 65 and out of this inning. He's had a couple situations where he was able to really wiggle out of. Second, third, nobody out, just giving up the 1 run, which was some nice pitching in that sequence. That could have been a very big inning for Israel, but he's had outstanding command, and that is the very unique setup of Sky Dome, where those bullpens are underneath or below the field level.
Bornstein swings and misses, and there's one away here in the 4th. And that's 5 strikeouts, Joe.
5 strikeouts, and every one of these Ks have come on the same pitch. Not a lot looking except for that one, but everything else is just kind of that little turnover pitch that is tantalizing, almost the screwball action. It looks like a good ball to hit, and the bottom just falls out of it. Plus, with the change of speeds, you've seen a lot of hitters. Cody Decker, his last time up, where that power has been spent, he's been on his front foot and waving at it. Of course, the next correction that a hitter tells himself is stay back.
A 1-0 to Decker, misses. So last time against Decker, it was outside, outside, outside. First couple of pitches going in. So again, a game of adjustments.
And it's just kind of changing the look, but he's going to continue because he's had so much success in this game for Jang to go back on the outside part of the plate. You show a little in, and then now he has set up that pitch to where he thinks he can go for that strikeout pitch. The challenge will be, will Decker make that adjustment and lay off it?
Be pitch number 59 for Jang. So Cody Decker is kind of the emotional leader of this team. And that right there is what they call the mensch on the bench. And I guess there's a stuffed animal toy that is a mensch on the bench. And this all started, they had a small one. That one looks more life-size, but they had a small one, thanks to Cody Decker, of course, with the team in Brooklyn. And apparently this big stuffed animal, mascot, not sure what you want to consider it, but it made the trip. That was Cody Decker's responsibility.
Yeah, that looks like something that probably cost a $5,000 business class round trip seat on the airplane.
Well, if they advance to Tokyo, it might be worth it.
Yep, whatever works. And if they're doing a lot of traveling and continuing to advance, they may want the elf on the shelf as opposed to the mensch on the bench.
Well, I think that's kind of what it stems from. Be a payoff pitch coming from Jang to Decker. Decker pops this one straight up. Dae-Ho Lee coming in, he'll make the play. So with Jang at 62 pitches now, assuming, I haven't seen any movement yet from the Korea dugout, but you can't pass 65 pitches if it is to finish a batter. So I know we keep saying 65 pitch limit, but that's a bit of a soft cap, if you will. You can pass 65 to finish off a hitter. Now, if he works quickly and maybe gets Lavarnway in a pitch or two, now we're really playing a game as to whether or not he comes out to start the 5th. But let's get through Lavarnway first and reassess, as a couple of pitchers are warming up for Korea, Sim and Cha.
Well, Kim really has to be happy how Jang has been able to pitch, even though he has fallen behind in some situations. But like I said, did his best pitching when Israel had runners on second and third and nobody out. And he had to really do some wiggling and a chance to get through 4 in just a 1-run ball game.
And at the big league level these days, 65 pitches in 4 innings, it's about right. Guys are not necessarily as efficient as they used to be. Ball and a strike. As Lavarnway drives this one toward left, but it will hang up. And pitch number 65 is his last. It's also the last pitch of the 4th. 1-0. Welcome back to Seoul. Paul Severino and Joe McGrain with you. It's an excited bunch, and they are waiting to get even more jazzed up if Team Korea can get something going. And if they do, it'll be against a new pitcher, as Jason Marquis' night is done after 3 innings. Zach Thornton takes over, 28-year-old from Los Angeles, California, added to the active roster, replacing Craig Breslow, who's now on Israel's designated pitchers pool. He'll face 4, 5, and 6 here in the 4th. And the first pitch to Dae-Ho Lee misses outside. Lee followed by Sun and Min here in the 4th.
And of course, those situations with Lee, their best hitter up at the plate, where you want to pitch to the scoreboard. Israel with the 1-run lead. We've talked about his power. In fact, right off the top of this game, and even though you're behind in the count, you want to try to make pitches down and away and not make go.
This one is driven to right center field. Fuld is back, and he makes the catch. It should come as no surprise that Sam Fuld hauls something in that's hit anywhere near him out in center field.
There's just not a ball in the air that he doesn't think that he can't catch. A hanging breaking ball, and Dae-Ho Lee drives that ball into the gap. And really, I have to tell you, that's, by any other standard, that's an outstanding catch, but that is one that Sam Fuld had in his back pocket. He catches that one 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, with the amount of great plays he's made, with all due respect, I don't know if that's on his greatest hits album.
No, no, that is that's way down there on the bad B side.
But Thornton will take it nonetheless, as Asap San, the right fielder, we'll see a 1-1 pitch from Thornton. And he'll test Fuld. I don't like his chances. 2 away.
Well, this kind of sets up what we were talking about very early in the game, that Dae-Ho Lee just takes what the pitcher gives him. He drives that a little bit into the gap in right center field, and not only the challenge of looking into the bank of lights here in this new ballpark, developing some familiarity, but looking up into the roof, getting a great jump, and Sam Fuld was Super Sam Fuld.
2 outs on 6 pitches here in the 4th inning for Zach Thornton. Young-Hin Min takes the ball outside. Min singled in the 2nd inning, but was stranded. 29-year-old who set career highs with the numbers on your screen, the 16 home runs and 87 RBIs in 2016. Mentioned before, he was the All-Star Game MVP for the KBO last July, and that was a game held right here at Gottschalk Sky Dome. 3 for 3 with a couple of home runs.
Boy, don't you see the value of defense when you can negotiate.
Hooks that one in left for his 2nd hit of the night, aboard with 2 outs here in the 4th.
You can negotiate through the best hitters in the Korea lineup, with Fuld picking you up with an outstanding play, and then just kind of a little front foot hit by Min on a sweeping breaking ball. Just kind of top spins it right into left field. But the good defensive play kind of changes the complexion of the inning. All of this with 2 outs, and Thornton can aggressively go after Yang here in the bottom of the order.
Yang flew out to left in the second. So if your Team Israel, I guess mission accomplished, right? You give the ball to Jason Marquis. He leaves the game with the lead, gets in under their unofficial barrier, I guess, of 50 pitches so that he could come back. But generally speaking, I don't know if, as you said, if he was at his best.
No, he wasn't at his best, but it was very professional because he was able to make the pitches when he needed to make them. And when you make 30 starts a year, there are going to be so few times when you have everything working, all those plates spinning on a stick, and it's really what you make of those starts when you don't have your good stuff. Not everyone can do it, and it's the poise and patience and also the experience of the moment that he was not in awe of, and able to wiggle out of his performance with Israel having a 1-run lead.
That one in the dirt, blocked nicely by Lavarnway. And a count now 2 balls and 2 strikes. They have got it all. They just want to make as much noise as possible. And I love it.
All these different sections of the ballpark where something different is going on.
That's right.
It's different, but it's enthusiasm.
Well, it's quelled a little bit here with the strikeout to end things. But Sam Fuld, the defensive superstar of the 4th, as he takes away potential extra bases from Dae-Ho Lee with just another diving grab. 1-0 Israel. Welcome back. Off to the top of the 5th we go here at Gottschalk Skydome as Sam Fuld gets bandaged up after yet another terrific defensive play.
Boy, everything that he has his eyes on, he thinks he has an opportunity to make a catch, and of course just kind of making that little 3-point landing with his throwing hand. And you have to be careful because that left shoulder was the one that was surgically repaired and still not quite all the way back from a strength standpoint, but just like the friction burn off the track out there in right center field.
8-9-1 due up for Team Israel here in the top of the 5th inning as Tyler Krieger will face the new pitcher Chang-Min Sim, a 24-year-old who's played with the Samsung Lions of the KBO since 2012. As he delivers inside to Krieger. Replaces Wonju Jang, who went 4 innings, gave up 2 hits, a run, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts, and hit the limit on the button. 65 pitches. Now, something else to keep in mind as we tie a bow on Sam Fuld's first of what we can probably assume will be many terrific defensive plays. As we keep talking about, this is a fast field, a fast track. It's a very hard surface, number 1, but number 2, those of you who are familiar with how some of these artificial surfaces are in the United States, there's the rubber pellets that are in the ground, in the grass, as it were. This, from what we understand, has little chips of porcelain, oddly enough, from what at least we're used to in the United States. I'm sure they're very tiny bits and not shards of glass, of course, but still not as forgiving as the rubber pellets. As Krieger draws the leadoff walk. And even in talking with the other teams and other coaches, we talked to Bert Blyleven earlier as the pitching coach for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, who we'll see here tomorrow night. He said, I don't even want my pitchers running on this stuff. They've been doing work on treadmills and running on treadmills just to keep them as fresh as possible.
Yeah, I didn't want them worried about taking batting practice, standing around, getting stiff, and getting kind of worn down. Not a lot of these teams have been together, other than Taiwan, more than anyone else, for several days training as a team. And we'll see the Kingdom of the Netherlands tomorrow. Another thing Bert Blyleven was talking about, and it's a theme today, as we had mentioned, that these bullpens are well below field level, and you're just kind of boxed in this little concrete square, and all of a sudden you're out out on the hill and your sight lines are completely different, and it can take you a while. And it was his thought to really get used to the atmosphere. And not only did he want his pitchers not running on the field, he didn't like them throwing in that bullpen very much, because it kind of gave you a false sense of security because of just the acoustics and dynamics there. You can throw a ball 50 miles an hour and you'd still hear that pop, crack of the mitt, and giving you that false sense of security.
Of course, you can still buy tickets for the World Baseball Classic at worldbaseballclassic.com. Join us in Seoul, in Tokyo, in Jalisco, in Miami for round 1, in Tokyo and San Diego for round 2, and of course it all wraps up in Los Angeles. So head over to the website, buy some tickets, and check out this wonderful tournament that's in its 4th go-round. 2006, 2009, 2013, and now here in 2017. The runner off of first is Tyler Krieger, as Mr. Gamboa, we've had a chance to talk with a few times, both in Brooklyn when you and I called the games, Joe, and also here in Seoul, the third base coach.
He's a baseball lifer, been at it a long time. Like Jerry Weinstein, his coach, and his other coach, Pat Doyle. These are some guys with some gray whiskers and wisdom. Pat Doyle, as I mentioned earlier, was replacing a last-minute replacement for Jerry Narron, who is not here in Seoul.
Bertram struck out back in the 2nd inning, the inning in which Israel scored the game's lone run. You'll see a 1-1 from Sim. Squares to bunt, pops it straight back. 1-2. Now we've seen throughout this at bat on a couple of occasions Krieger off with the pitch. Now we're seeing Bertram square to bunt. Israel's trying to get something going here. While they do have an awful lot of power in their lineup, manager Weinstein is trying to make sure that they utilize the balance that they have. A little bit more speed this time around than what we saw in September in the qualifier.
And Paul, what you really like to do, ideally, you have some speed at the bottom part of the order. That's where you really try to generate offense, is by starting the runner, doing some of the little things.
Runner bluffed. Bertram swings and misses for the first strikeout for Sim, and there's one away.
Sim finding that little breaking ball where it looks like a strike, and he just kind of slides it right off the outside corner. Looks good to hit, and by the time that Bertram commits, it is outside the strike zone, no chance.
So back to the top of the order for Sam Fuld, who's already made his presence felt on the defensive side, and it was only a matter of time. But 0 for 2 so far, with a fly out and a ground out.
His first at bat, he was right on time. It took a strike and went to hacking. Hard line drive to center field. Looked like he hadn't missed a beat. Of course, he hasn't missed a beat in the outfield.
No, not at all. But he did miss time all of last season with a shoulder injury, and the WBC could serve as something of an audition for Fuld to find a club in 2017.
He has already, gone well beyond proving himself what he can do defensively and the value that he would have for a team coming in the last couple of innings to play defense anywhere in the outfield. Like I said earlier, the ball's in the air. He's going to be underneath it somehow. Some outfielders, when they leave their feet, they become out of control, but he's just always had this ability to just keep his eyes locked on and with that laser focus when he leaves his feet and leaves his feet under control. And it's just really not that much different than he is when he's catching the ball on the run.
Krieger's getting a workout over there at first. He's been off with pitches that have been fouled back. He's been bluffing. He's been moving, trying to generate something. And a little bit more of a deliberate pace for Sim on the mound compared to what Jang had done through the first 4 innings. 21 steals last year for Krieger. He stays put on that one, and it's now 2-1 to Fuld.
Sims normally has worked in the Korean Baseball League as a kind of back end closer, high end closer that's been successful.
25 for 31 in save ops with a sub-3 ERA last year. Fuld toward the alley in right center field, but into the glove of Lee for out number 2. Well, he squared up a couple, Joe. He just hasn't found any grass yet.
That's what I mentioned earlier. It looked like he was right on time. So he's had 2 at-bats today where he's been on time. He's been right through the ball, the bat staying in the zone. And he's hit 2 line drives right to the center fielder. Nothing to show for it other than, hey, I'm swinging it well.
That'll bring up Ty Kelly, who is 0 for 2. Krieger, the runner on first, they get a check on him.
You know, he's got to look like he wants to go. He's looking a little springy and spry over there at first base, like he wants to try to get into scoring position, take a shot with 2 outs, and if not, Kelly will lead off the inning, and they'll still have the heart of the lineup to go after it in the 6th.
That one in the dirt, backhanded nicely by Yang. And 1-0 to Ty Kelly. Mentioned he was a 13th round pick of the Orioles in 2009, but he's also played for the Cardinals, Blue Jays, and now he's in the Mets organization. Career .280 hitter in the minor leagues. He's also bounced around defensively, doesn't quite have a position. And now this one is skied toward left. An easy play for Min. Sim works through the 5th. It's 1-0 Israel. Welcome back to Gochuck Sky Dome. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. We've hit the halfway point of the opener of the 2017 World Baseball Classic, heading to the bottom of the 5th with Team Israel up 1-0. Zach Thornton out for his 2nd inning of work as he replaced Jason Marquis, who went 3 innings, gave up 2 hits, walked 1, and struck out 3. His first pitch to Kyungmin Hur, the 3rd baseman, is ball 1. 8-9-1 due up for Korea here in the 5th. Hur, Kim, and Lee. Takes a little off, and it's 1-1.
Well, Korea had tried to put their defensive lineup out there tonight with the left-hander Jang starting, and it's still a 1-run ball game. They're trying to generate some offense. Yeah, it's also the challenge when you have these pitch limits, which means you're going to see a lot of different pitchers, a lot of different looks, and Israel's manager Jerry Weinstein really wants to exploit that to the hilt. He wants to give, when he makes a move, make sure that the next guy that replaces the pitcher has a completely different look than the one before. And you have the arm slot of Jason Marquis, and then Thornton, which is kind of a whirling, side-wheeling, slinging type look, and different timing, different delivery, and if you're always changing your looks and your timing, it really is difficult for an offense to get any type of momentum going. So that's when you take what may not be the best in pitching depth, and you use that to your advantage based on just varying the looks. Simple stuff and effective stuff.
Payoff pitch coming from Thornton, misses upstairs, and it's a leadoff walk. Now, Correa has had some chances. They haven't had, I guess, great chances, but they have had some chances. They've had a base runner on every inning. In fact, they've stranded a runner every inning. As now Jerry Weinstein comes out to chat.
Bottom of the order, you have to make guys like that hit. And he's already thinking a couple of steps ahead as this lineup is getting ready to turn over with Kim, the number 9 hitter, coming to the plate.
I haven't seen a motion just yet. And now the home plate umpire, Brian Knight, comes out, and there will not be a pitching change. So he just wanted to make sure everything was set. That wasn't necessarily a stall tactic, I suppose.
No, and sometimes it could be really related to the defense with a lot of the small ball wanting to be played at the bottom part of the order, and just making sure the whole infield is on the same page of what they want to do and try to defend Kim if he is to lay one down or square to bunt, pull it back and take a hack at one, or a hit and run.
He grounded out in the third, and prior to the tournament, the 31-year-old was selected as the team captain. He does square, but pulls back. 1-0.
And sometimes you square early, you see what the rotation of the defense is, and for the purposes of getting them out of position, just kind of square early, move them, pull the bat back, and just have a little what's called a butchie boy and take like a little abbreviated swing. It looked like he was trying to do there.
Did have 19 sacrifice hits in the KBO last year. The last 2 years, rather. But still, it's a part of his game, nonetheless.
Yeah. Square to bunt, pull it back, and just try to play a little pepper.
Her off of first, and they get a check on him.
They're rocking.
They are. They're ready. They are waiting to get even more excited than they already are. Jae-Ho Kim, also the captain of the 2-time reigning KBO champions. The unquestioned leader of this Korean squad. Again, as we mentioned in our open, hosting pool play for the first time in the WBC. They've been a very successful country the first 3 go-rounds, 14-5 overall. That one got a piece of Kim. And now first and second, nobody out for the top of the order.
I think that's also one where you would, as that ball hit Kim, you take the chance, did he actually go around and offer and make a swing? And no, he did not. But that got him down on the back elbow, or wrist rather.
And a slower walk out to the mound this time for Jerry Weinstein, and of course, second visit of the inning. This is going to be a pitching change. So we'll take a quick break here in Seoul. Big spot for Korea. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of World Baseball Classic Incorporated. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. Zach Thornton gives way. Third pitcher of the night for Team Israel will be Jeremy Bleish, 29-year-old from New Orleans. First round pick, 44th overall by the Yankees in 2008. Signed a minor league deal with the Diamondbacks in late February. Pitched for the team in the qualifier in September. 1 unearned run on 4 hits.
You know, if you can look at this, Paul, and just kind of a mini snapshot inside of this inning, and with our conversations with Jerry Weinstein for Israel, not really believing in having a hard and fast 9th inning guy, because he believes that there are high leverage situations that can pop up at any point in the ball game. And with Israel clinging to a 1-run lead, the 8 and 9 hitters have reached with no one out. So he's gone to the left-handed pitcher.
And they have reached without the benefit of a hit as Lee squares, pulls back. He had 7 sacrifices last year and 11 the year before. So again, that's a part of his game as well. And 2 on and nobody out. Easily the best scoring chance so far for Korea. Hyun Min Hur is on at second base. He walked, and Jae-ho Kim on at first after the hit by pitch. Lee's a 31-year-old making his 3rd appearance in the World Baseball Classic. 6 for 26 in 2009 and 2013 combined. In fact, won a gold medal in the Olympics in 2008. Squares, floats this one. It'll fall harmlessly in foul ground. 1-1.
The modern day baseball, with all its changes, with all its progression and advancements, the one lost art that you just don't see a lot of guys that have mastered not only the technique but are adept at punting. But you did mention all of the sacrifices that Lee has had.
Lee squares again, but will take a called strike that he's not happy with. 1-2.
Beautiful crossfire pitch where it never really looked like a strike, going all the way across the plate, made better by that arm slot and really stuck by Lavarnway. Good pitch.
Hur and Kim lead off second and first respectively. It'll be a 1-2. Shoots that one foul to stay alive.
With that leg kick that we profiled earlier, and just the way that he's trying to time the ball, he's trying to just flip it into left field. And he tried that last time up. Hit a little soft liner to short.
Just the bottom of the 5th, but this has a late inning feel to it. The crowd certainly responsible for some of that. The immediacy of this tournament, part of that as well.
And if I was Galen, I would even move in a little bit in left field.
A 1-2.
You can see with that leg kick just staying back on that back leg, trying to keep the hands back and floating towards the pitcher, and you can see where he's reaching that ball right out in front of the plate, that he's thinking about left field and the left side of the field only. There's no way that he can pull the ball from that position unless it's just some super slow off-speed pitch.
Korea had a tough time scoring in the exhibition games too, but this is the part of the lineup that they would love to do some damage. Again, the 1-2. Just misses outside. I think Lee might have even thought he got rung up.
Everyone eyeballed that, and Lee was thinking, he barely got another chance, and that one just barely off the plate. Lavarnway calmly flipping it back. A call that would have been nice to get, but was off the plate.
And the home plate umpire is Brian Knight, a major league umpire, one of 2 on the field for this one. That one not even nearly as close, and now the count runs full. And now the tensions rise a little bit more.
Yeah, in this type of situation, obviously you have to trust yourself on the hill. You know that Lee's not going to be able to beat you with the long ball. Is just throw something up and away and just let him hit a soft fly ball to the left fielder. get to these counts, scoreboards, and the game within the game, you pitch to not only the scoreboard, the count, but the ballpark as well, and knowing that he can't hit the ball over the left fielder's head with the type of swing that he's trying to engineer against Bleish.
3 balls, 2 strikes, nobody out. That one is strike 3. A good at bat for Lee, but he comes up empty, and there's 1 away.
I thought the first pitch wasn't a strike, and he thought he got away with one on the previous pitch, and he thinks that one is low. And it certainly looked like it was high enough, most definitely high enough. And if you're Lee in that situation, you cannot take a called third.
Her at second, Kim at first. Gun Chang So, the second baseman, slaps this one through the left side for a base hit. He gets the green light coming around third. Play at the plate, not in time. We're tied at 1.
So doing what Lee was trying to do, this one with a lot more authority, inside out swing between the hole of short and third. The rhythm and footwork a little off with Galen out in left. And we're tied.
And anytime Korea does something in this tournament, there's going to be a little extra juice in the yard, but So, playing in his home ballpark, comes up with the base hit. Member of the Nexen Heroes, and a hero at least for the moment with the equalizer. He's on at first. Moving to second on the base hit was Jae-Ho Kim.
Setting up absolutely perfectly for Korea. Their best hitters coming to the plate in a big situation.
Tae-Kyung Kim pops this one up. Will LaBarnway have room? Yes, 2 away. So now it's up to Dae-Ho Lee. Korea certainly happy to get on the board and tie things up, but mentioned they've had chances. They've had base runners every inning, and they have had a tough time moving them around. Only 5 innings into this one, but this is their chance to really dent the scoreboard in a big way as Lee takes outside 1-0. Again, Lee's 3rd trip to the WBC. Come up with in big spots before. Had the go-ahead sac fly in the 8th inning of the 2009 title game, but Japan came back to win. Showing a veteran eye, takes outside 2-0.
He's clearly the best hitter for Team Korea, and I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he walks here with the left-handed hitter on deck.
Not looking to walk. Foul territory, moving over and making the catch is Nate Fryman in foul ground. Nicely done by Bleish, but Korea ties things up. We are through 5. 1-1. Thanks to the RBI from Gun Chang So. We're back. Welcome back to Gocheok Skydome in Seoul, South Korea. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you as we move to the top of the 6th inning in a 1-1 ball game. And it's game 1 of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Glad you're with us. And up early in some parts of the world as well. Fortunately, we've all been treated to a good one through the first 5 innings. We hope it continues as this night rolls on. And again, we've talked about it, the immediacy of this tournament that, yes, it's a round robin pool play format where 2 teams advance, but we have also mentioned that Joe and I and some of the folks that have done homework with us believe that this could be one of the more intriguing of the 4 pools, and therefore every game is going to be of the utmost importance. The 1-0 to Blake Galen. He takes outside. 2 balls and no strikes. 3, 4, and 5 due up for Team Israel against Sim, who's in his 2nd inning of work.
Yeah, I guess, Paul, you can make a strong case for any one of these 4 teams advancing to Tokyo. And with that being said, that's really showing you the parity and the competitiveness and the balance of this pool here in Seoul.
Again, it's Korea and Israel here. Chinese Taipei and the Kingdom of the Netherlands as well. As that one misses to Galen. 2-1.
It's kind of that pitch that everyone just goes, well, that was a ball. Yeah, sometimes just with the intensity of Korea really having an inning that they were making it last and getting back to tying it, and then there's just kind of this letdown in momentum. And Korea's manager Kim knows that, you know, they really developed some offensive momentum. And the one thing that you want to do as a pitcher is really step on their neck and get your team off the field and back to where they're swinging the bats and putting the pressure right back on the pitcher again. And a leadoff walk, no way to do that.
So now it's Nate Fryman with Galen off of first. And now Sim having a tough time finding the strike zone in this inning. Fryman walked and scored in the 2nd, struck out back in the 3rd.
Yeah, and for Sim, that one was way off the charts. And this big fella can lose one if Sim makes a mistake.
He was part of the qualifier in September. Didn't fare nearly as well as he did in the qualifier in 2012 when he was 5 for 12 with 4 home runs and 7 RBIs. Followed that up with a 2 for 11 effort in Brooklyn in September.
Yeah, we saw that swing in Brooklyn, and he has to get pitches out over the plate where he can get extension, and sometimes they look a little too good to where they're sweeping off and they entice him to swing at. One of the bigger challenges that guys with the long arms, 6'4", 6'5", is having to make a compact move into the ball and still have that leverage and that power and really hit through the ball and inside the ball.
Hot shot foul. Nate Fryman's a guy who has bounced around a little bit in the majors, in the minors, different organizations throughout his career. Of course, he's played with the Oakland A's, but he started last season in the Nationals organization before finishing in the Red Sox system. But he has taken that big frame and that big swing to the major league level at parts of his baseball career. Now trying to help Team Israel break a 1-1 score here in the 6th. Pops this one up in foul ground. Lee for out number 1. Sim at 25 pitches right now, and it looks like that's going to be it for him. A pitching change for Team Korea. We'll meet the new hurler when we come back. Welcome back to Seoul. 3rd pitcher of the night for Team Korea as Woo Chen Cha, 29-year-old playing in his 2nd WBC, takes over. Faced 1 batter in the 2013 tournament and gave up a hit. Hoping for a little bit better success here in the top of the 6th inning. First batter he'll face is Zach Borenstein, the right fielder, who doubled in the 2nd and struck out in the 4th. Runner on first is Blake Galen. He led the inning off with a walk. And now he takes his lead off at first as Borenstein takes a look at ball 1. Borenstein, a 26-year-old from Illinois, 23rd round pick of the Angels in 2011. Each team has used 3 pitchers to this point. Jason Marquis got the start for Team Israel, stayed under 50, so one can assume he'll be back at some point if Team Israel decides they want him back. He started for Israel while Woo-Jun Jang started for Korea. He hit 65 right on the button, so given the rules, he passed the 50 pitch mark, so he needs 4 days of rest, which basically takes him out of the tournament. So a bit of a moving target when it comes to the pitch limitations. I know it can be a little bit confusing given the different thresholds, but just something to keep in mind as this tournament continues to unfold.
You know, that's why Sim for Korea was taken out with the pitch count that he had, because, you know, basically he's built for being a bullpen guy. Jang not. And there's a look at the rest restrictions. He can come back and pitch tomorrow if need be. Cha, on the other hand, more of a starter, used to being lengthened out, and some pretty good contracts in the Korean Baseball League. In the offseason, he signed a 4-year deal. This is after playing for 11 seasons. Just signed a 4-year deal for $8.1 million.
Not bad. Switching teams, now playing with the LG Twins. Borenstein gets a little piece of that one. Now 2 balls and 2 strikes. For Cha in 2015, he played like many of his teammates on the Premier 12 gold medal winning South Korean team. And pitched 7 scoreless innings in Game 5 of the 2011 Korean series. And helped give Samsung the KBO title in the process. But again, switching teams with a lot of money in the bank in 2017. Be a 2-2 to Borenstein. It's fun. I had a chance to talk with the commissioner, Rob Manfred, a little earlier. This is a tournament that he hinted at perhaps could grow, at least in terms of the qualifiers in the future, which will be great. Again, one of the main purposes of the World Baseball Classic is to grow the game globally. And again, it's not only just the 16 teams that are involved in the tournament itself, but it's the 16 teams that also get the chance to qualify. Qualifier last year in February, a couple of them in March, and one in September. And that was the one that Israel was able to advance from to get here to Seoul. Borenstein is out on strikes for out number 2.
Well, Chan making a very good pitch on Borenstein. He got into the at-bat, and just that power slider where he just wraps that wrist, puts some good snap on it, and Borenstein over the top of that by a few inches.
That'll bring up Cody Decker. Decker 0 for 2, struck out in the 2nd and popped up in the 4th. This is a guy who's got some power. You see what he did last year in 3 different organizations, 2 different levels. He's averaged, or he did average, I should say, 23 home runs per season from 2010 to 2015. A little south of that average in 2016.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. You can see how it's tough to hit, where each time these guys are coming to the plate, they're facing a different pitcher with different look, different types of stuff, different timing, velocity, break.
And now Decker. High drive to right. A step or 2 on the track. Sun makes the catch. And Israel strands a runner here in the 6th. We go to the home half. Tied at 1. We've had a good one to this point. The opener of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you as we go to the last of the 6th. Tied at 1 here in Seoul, South Korea. The host country facing Jeremy Bleich for his 2nd inning of work. 5, 6, and 7 due up for Team Korea. Asap Sun, the right fielder, will lead things off. Young Hyun Min and Uiji Yang behind him. 0 for 2 so far for Sun. As Bleich paints the outside corner. No balls and a strike.
He'd like to be very economical with his pitches in this inning, with Israel having a quick turnaround tomorrow, perhaps being able to be utilized tomorrow.
He was the one that limited the damage last inning for Team Korea, who had leadoff walk and hit batters, so 2 on and nobody out. Got a strikeout, an RBI single, but then a couple of pop outs by their 3 and 4 hitters. So they did get the 1 to tie it. So that's of the utmost importance, but certainly had a chance, a golden opportunity to tack on more runs. And walked away with 1. Really, both teams have had a tough time. It's been like the early rounds of a fight where you're just trying to feel out the opposition.
Sometimes just keeping it as simple as possible. And
on the ground, nicely played at short. Safe. An infield single. That is a tough play by Scott Burcham on a fast track on the backhand. But the speed of Son makes it so it's an infield single.
Yeah, first of all, how did he get this ball on the ground? It looked like he had kind of tomahawked it on a pitch that was up, and it shows you how fast the track is. I mean, that ball is up in his eyes and he hits it on the ground. Great reactions by Burcham, and if he could just get his plant foot right there, that if it did not slip out from underneath him, he's got a shot to get something behind his throw.
Well, the infield single is going to be the last pitch thrown by Jeremy Bleich. A pitching change for Team Israel. We'll be back to Seoul in a moment. Welcome back to Gochok Skydome in Seoul, South Korea. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. The fans waiting to get even more excited than they already are. I mean, they were ready to go from the minute they walked in the door. But they have been waiting for Korea to get their offense going. They'll try to get it going here with a runner on after a pitching change as Gabe Kramer takes over, a 22-year-old from California. Signed with the Royals as an undrafted free agent in July of 2015. He'll face the number 6 hitter, Young Hyun Min, who's got a couple of base hits to his credit to this point.
So really no cards to be played close to the vest by Jerry Weinstein, who told us that he will continue to make a lot of moves and just piecemeal the pitching staff together throughout the game. And the one thing that he considers most important is varying the looks. He had Bleich, the left-hander, side wheeling, and now the right-hander Gabe Kramer coming in, who has more over the top. And if you don't have that pitching depth, you want to be able to really take advantages as much as you can of the deception in these pitchers' deliveries and hoping that it works out.
1-0. Swung on, line towards center field, but that's where Sam Fuld patrols. And there's one away.
Well, word of advice, hit it to somebody else. This guy's already proved that he can run anything down. And he knows that's where Sam Fuld hangs out.
Fuld, as we suspected, made a terrific sliding catch in the right center field gap earlier in this ball game, taking what could have been extra bases away from Dae-Ho Lee in the fourth. This one is a towering foul ball into the second deck down the right field line off the bat of Luigi Yang, the catcher, who is 0 for 2. Struck out back in the fourth. 2016 Korean Series MVP. Hit the go-ahead homer in the clinching game of the series. Also added an RBI single. Can he find a big hit here? Kramer, the fourth pitcher of the night for Team Israel. And a base hit into center field. So for the second inning in a row, Team Korea has a couple of runners aboard.
A couple of well-hit balls up the middle of the plate. And thus it's the power hitting part of the Korea lineup. The swings are pretty measured and just a beautiful job of getting the ball perfectly out in front of the plate.
Now the pitching coach, Andrew Lorraine, will come out and have a chat with Dean Kramer. Andrew Lorraine, a former teammate of yours, in fact, Joe.
Absolutely. 1993 and 94. He's out of Stanford University, and he's a left-hander. Got to keep that fraternity together.
He's also with the club in the qualifier in Brooklyn. A couple of runners aboard here in the sixth. Another terrific scoring opportunity here for Korea. Asap San led things off with a base hit. Luigi Yang with a one-out knock. He's your runner at first. Korea has had a base runner in every inning thus far in this game, and again, their best scoring chances have been in the last 2 innings. 1-0 to Kyung-min Hur.
Yeah, it used to be every time a pitching coach came out there, you could think that the next pitch was going to be a fastball because it was a reminder, hey, be aggressive, get back to the strike zone. There are 2 good breaking balls there. And
gets out Bertram quickly, but he makes the play and makes the double play. Nicely done. He was tested before, couldn't get the out this time. Turns the 6-4-3 double play to help get Kramer and Team Israel out of trouble. And once again, Team Korea has a tough time getting the big hit. Nice defense for Israel. We're tied at 1. Welcome back to Seoul. A 1-1 game as we go to the 7th inning. Fourth pitcher of the night for Team Korea toes the slab as Jung Yang Won, a 29-year-old who's only played 2 seasons in the KBO, but has 148 strikeouts in 141 2/3 innings. And he will face 7, 8, and 9, the bottom third of Team Israel's batting order, as Ryan Lavarnway takes ball 1. Tyler Krieger and Scott Bertram to follow.
well, he rushes it up there pretty good with kind of a lower arm slot. And just the way that that ball kind of comes out of his hand, you can see that it seems like it's a pretty good effective velocity.
And Lavarnway skies this one toward right field. Came awfully close to one of those rings or support beams across the ceiling, but steers clear of it for out number 1. Juan had a .318 ERA with the NC Dinos last season.
Yeah, I was going to say that he has that delivery where it looks like the release point to where it could just pop out of his uniform to where it would make hard look a little harder. Enhance that effective velocity. And look at Krieger, Paul. Does not that stance kind of remind you of Carlos Beltran?
Yes.
Especially from center field. Look at that. And the way that he just kind of strides and takes the pitch, just his move into the ball. Just 22 years old, Tyler Krieger.
And this one, a hot shot to second base. Adam played perfectly, and Krieger is retired. You mentioned Carlos Beltran, and Beltran, of course, playing for Team Puerto Rico. They get things going in Jalisco, Mexico in a couple of days. Again, we get the treat, the privilege of being the first game out of the gates in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Coming up tomorrow, Tokyo and Pool B gets underway. And the 2 teams that advance from Seoul and the 2 teams that advance from Pool B will go to Tokyo for round 2. Jalisco and Miami, the 4 teams advancing from those 2 pools, head to San Diego. In and out of the glove of the second baseman So, and into shallow right field. It's a line drive off the bat of Burcham. We'll see how they score that one. It looks like initially called a hit.
I think you could have that one go either way and call that an error. It's just kind of sliced by Burcham, and So just kind of gets his feet a little tangled where the timing and the footwork is a little off. I think that would be one that he would tell you that he should have had.
I don't know if it knuckled on him or what, but yeah.
A little tangled, turned around.
All right, we'll have a pitching change here in Seoul. Runner on, 2 out in the 7th. Welcome back as we take a look here at part of the Korea coaching staff, as In-shik Kim on the left, the manager of this team, and Dong-yul Sun, the pitching coach, on the right. Had the pleasure of speaking with both of those gentlemen the other day. They, of course, admitted maybe a little bit added pressure, of course. They're the home squad here, hosting pool play for the first time in these 4 now World Baseball Classics. New pitcher and 5th of the evening for Team Korea, as Hyun-Sin Lee, 33-year-old, closer for the 2-time reigning KBO champion Doosan Bears, takes over. With Scott Burcham on at first after the base hit, top of the order, and Sam Fuld takes low for ball 1. Fuld 0 for 3, couple of flyouts and a ground out, but Joe, he has squared it up in a couple of those loud outs.
Well, you're right. The 0 for 3 does not really tell the story, because he's been right on time. He's been selective. His takes have been good. He just looked very hitterish. Even though the left on left, his swings, his at-bats have been very competitive. You know, you mentioned the Korean coaching staff. We had a great chat with their pitching coach, and I'll have to mention it now about the ball and some of the Korean pitchers having difficulty getting used to basically a major league ball that has mud rubbed on it. It's a different baseball that they're used to competing with, and how slippery it feels. And the reason I tried to get in front of that, you see that breaking ball, it just kind of rolled in there. You really didn't have that snap that you would normally have. They talk about how it's kind of difficult to really get a good handle on the baseball that's being used for the WBC, which is Major League Baseball specifications. And when Asian pitchers come over.
And finally, Sam Fuld able to cash in. Heading from first to third is Bertram. And now Israel's got something going here in the 7th.
That's why I was talking about that, because I figured he would see some breaking balls, and that it's not as easy to really get a good grip and get that good rotation on the ball that they're used to using. So seeing a lot of these pitchers from Korea that haven't had extra snap, the guys with the good fastballs have stayed with those, and the guys that throw the breaking balls have tried to really get the most out of them. There were back-to-back rolling breaking balls, and Fuld, a major league hitter, hits the ball hard for the 3rd time tonight.
Scott Bertram on at third, Sam Fuld on at first. The hitter is Ty Kelly, who is 0 for 3. In the dirt, smothered by Yang, and it's 1-0. We've talked the last few innings about Korea having opportunities. Well, Israel, in the inning in which they scored a run back in the 2nd, they ended up having bases loaded and 1 out, and got nothing out of that scenario. They had scored the run prior to that, but it was Fuld's ground out that ended the 2nd inning. So they had stranded 3 in the 2nd. And if they were able to put a little bit more pressure on Team Korea, perhaps they would have the lead in this one. But no lead to be had at this point, as more action for Korea in their bullpen.
Kelly looking for a little 2-out thunder, seeing if he gets another one of those breaking pitches.
Take a look at the numbers here for Ty Kelly against lefties last year with the New York Mets. He hit .368 and was one of 4 Mets to get a hit off of Madison Bumgarner in last year's wild card game. Overall, though, he had .241 in 39 games with the Mets last season. We'll see a 1-1 pitch here and take it for ball 2.
Now in a hitter's count, is this one where he will look to be smartly aggressive and look for something away to serve into the hole between 2nd and 1st? That was the pitch to do it. That's where you just kind of drag the barrel and serve that into the opposite field. A lot of room on the right side.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on in a 1-1 game here in the top of the 7th inning. Hyun Sin Lee on the mound and Ty Kelly at the plate. The 2-2. Kelly swings and stays alive.
Good job spoiling that pitch. Was tailing just off the outside corner. Demoralizing to a pitcher making that real nasty pitch, having to collect himself and do it again.
The runner at third is Scott Bertram. He had a 2-out base hit, followed by Sam Fuld's 2-out knock. The 2-2. Nicely played by Yang once again.
Well, you never know what you're going to get in that ball in the dirt, whether it's going to have a little bit of a skip to it, and just a beautiful job of smothering it. He even had the 5-hole covered there as well. That ball was not going anywhere, and to have that confidence with a runner on third base, even though that was a pitch that got away from the left-hander. Nice job by the catcher, Yang.
3-2, so Fuld will have a bit of a head start from first. Misses low, and the bases will be loaded for Team Israel.
Tough to take, not wanting to take a called third in that situation, but making the pitcher work. You know, oftentimes 3-2 hitters are very worried about taking a called third, so they will expand the strike zone. So a real good job by Kelly to lay off that pitch.
It's the first walk for Lee, and the 6th walk issued by Korea pitching here tonight. Bases loaded and 2 outs. Bertram at third, Fuld at second, and Kelly on at first for Blake Galen, who's 1 for 2 with a walk. He takes up and away a ball and no strikes. Ten professional seasons for Galen. Spent parts of 3 seasons in affiliated ball, the rest in the independent leagues. The 1-0 on the way. Takes upstairs, 2 balls and no strikes.
Last 2 pitches, he's been really underneath as he was missing low to Kelly, trying to make that adjustment and having to do that again.
The big bat of Nate Fryman on deck, but right now the focus is on Blake Galen. Bases loaded, 2 outs in a 1-1 game, top 7. Opening game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Crucial pitch on the way from Lee, and he misses outside. 3 balls and no strikes. Again, Fryman looms in the on-deck circle. Israel's only run so far to this point on a bases-loaded walk. That came back in the 2nd.
A situation where you might not take 1, but 2.
Crowd into it, and now the 3-0. I think you're right. I don't think he had any plans of taking the bat off his shoulder on that 3-0.
And also because really the deliveries have been very scattershot from Lee. Really not anything wrong about taking another one here.
Bertram, Fuld, and Kelly are runners, third to first. A 3-1 is on the way from Lee. In there for a called strike 2, and Galen thought that was ball 4.
Well, he handled that right. He didn't hear the strike call because of the crowd noise. He had already taken off his shin guard. And a late call by Brian McKnight. And look at this. He's oblivious. The pitch does look like it's down. He's taking everything. What? Was that a strike? And, oh, my fault.
Well, business is about to pick up. Full count, 2 outs, tie game in the 7th. Runners will get a jump start here. 3-2, swing, line, caught at short, inning over. Israel had a chance. For the 2nd time in this game, they leave the bases loaded. We're tied at 1, middle of the 7th in Korea. Welcome back to Seoul, South Korea. Blake Galen still wishing, still hoping. He squared this one up with the bases loaded and 2 outs, but right to short. Jae-Ho Kim able to make the play and end the threat. And again, Joe, for the 2nd time in this game, Israel leaves the bases loaded. But if you want to go back a couple of pitches, Galen thought that he had ball 4 and an RBI and a bases loaded walk. We may have thought the same as we got the low angle, that it was a bit low. New pitcher is Alex Katz, and his first delivery to the shortstop, who made the play to end the top half of the 7th. Jae-Ho Kim is in there for a strike.
Well, there are discussions with Israel's pitching coach, Andrew Lorraine. He really liked the stuff of Katz. And talking about the catchers, we're having a difficult time catching him. And of course, if it's difficult to catch, it's probably difficult to hit. He has a lot of life on his fastball. Left-hander with a lot of late life. And given that situation, you just kind of have to take your sights and kind of widen them out a little bit and not try to be too precise or too fine. And start that pitch somewhere in the middle of the plate and down, knowing that it's not going to end up there like that one.
Yeah, that got a piece of Kim. And now for the third consecutive inning, Team Korea has their leadoff runner aboard.
That's twice as the number 9 hitter that Kim has been hit. The elbow, back elbow, there, and this time the back leg. He is wearing it tonight.
Get a little attention there, stretch this thing out a little bit. Get some of that numbing spray, it looks like.
That used to be very prevalent back when I played the ethyl chloride. A guy would get hit, and you'd spray that and kind of freeze the area. Although I think that was more of like a tape adhesive spray.
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd rather go for the cold spray.
So this is the opener, Israel and Korea, but still plenty of baseball on tap. Israel back at it. Quick turnaround tomorrow afternoon here local time against Chinese Taipei in their first game. Korea back for game number 2 for them up against the Kingdom of the Netherlands. 6:30 local time game. Check your local listings and check the internet to see what time zone you're in while watching this game. As squaring to bunt is the leadoff hitter and center fielder Young-Kyu Lee, who was 0 for 3.
He had a bunting situation last time that he was up and ended up taking a strike and was disappointed in himself. And a little guy like that, and he's bunting. To try to get the go-ahead run in scoring position, he's got to get a little bit more up on the plate the way he's holding the bat, because that pitch on the outside corner, his last at bat, looked way away, and it was a good pitch to bunt. All he would had to do was just catch the ball on the barrel of his bat, and it would have been a perfect bunt.
Kwon-Soo Kim, the third base coach, giving the signs as Lavarnway goes out to the mound to talk with Alex Katz, the 22-year-old from Long Island, New York. 27th round pick by the White Sox in the 2015 draft out of St. John's University. He's actually one of 6 St. John's players taken in that draft, which tied a school record. Second pitcher of the night from Long Island, New York, and in fact was born in the same town as Jason Marquis as well.
Lavarnway just trying to be very upfront, saying, hey, they're trying to give you an out in that situation. Throw the ball over the plate.
On 2-0, swings, ground ball to short, 1-2. Well, they were trying to give him 1 out earlier in the at-bat. Instead, Israel will take 2 on the 6-4-3.
Watch the infielders fight the ground balls here. They've been skidding, and not only that, they've been fast. Now, this ball is hit well. And there's always just a little uncertainty as that ball just kind of really skids and accelerates. So not only does it have that fast track for Bertram, but you see these guys really having to trust their hands and fight it and turn that into 2. Even the routine firm ground balls are anything but, based on the speed of the surface and how the ball reacts, and a big double play there.
Bertram's been tested a few times, and he's been up to the task on a couple of occasions, as So is able to check his swing. Kun Cheng So, the second baseman, has a couple of hits to his credit tonight. He's reached base in all 3 trips to the dish. A walk in the first, single and steal in the third, and an RBI single in the 5th. a 1-2 now to So. A swing and a miss. As Katz gets the hit batter, but the huge double play ball and then the strikeout to end it. We're through 7, tied at 1. An inning, Zach Borenstein's double got things going, at least for a little bit. After the bases loaded walk, that was it. Israel left the bases loaded. And then later in the ball game, in the 5th inning, Chang So with the RBI base hit, and that has been it with the offense to this point. A 1-1 game going to the top of the 8th. Marquis gets the start for Israel, 3 innings. The key note there is that he stayed under 50 pitches, so it is possible for him to come back at some point here in Seoul. Jang went 4 and struck out 5, and So with a couple of hits for Team Korea, who is on to their 6th pitcher of the evening, as Jang Min Lim is in and surrenders a line drive, loud out number 1 off the bat of Nate Fryman to kick things off here in the 8th.
Yeah, sometimes those line drives to center field end up just kind of knuckling, but a real nice job of Lee to really stick with that. Ball very well centered.
Lim, a 31-year-old who posted a career-high 31 saves in 35 opportunities in 2015. Saved 26 games in 2016, which was 3rd most in the KBO. He's already retired Fryman. He's got Zach Borenstein and Cody Decker up next. Borenstein doubled in the 2nd, and struck out in the 4th and 6th, and takes upstairs, ball 1. Numbers we were alluding to in the Korea Baseball Organization. All those saves to go along with a 2.57 ERA.
Well, he can strike you out too.
91 and 70. Gotta like that ratio. Ike Davis has come out into the on-deck circle. So it looks like for now, at least, he would be replacing Cody Decker.
Well, you don't often make a lot of pronouncements based on what you're seeing in batting practice, but Davis really swung the bat well in BP. Borenstein swung the bat very well. Just looked very comfortable, not really a slave to the mechanics, and they were turning it loose. At times making the ballpark look small.
It will be a 3-1 from Lim to Borenstein. And Borenstein is on with a walk. So that will bring up Ike Davis, who has seen plenty of time in the major leagues. And this was back in 2012 with the New York Mets. Had himself quite a night. He's had himself a nice little major league career as well, and one of the more accomplished hitters for Team Israel, and arguably the most power of anyone in their lineup. But he may have to wait a minute here, because there's a meeting on the mound. Not sure if they're going to make a pitching change or if this is just a little chat to give a quick scouting report on Ike Davis, who played in 65 games in AAA last year. But Joe, without question, you know, the most power for Team Israel, I think.
Well, a lot of power, and the major league body of work probably necessitated that trip to the mound to do a little brushing up on the scouting report. Ike has always had that light tower power. He's had kind of a complicated swing. You've seen kind of the stretches where it looks like he's got it figured out, and the lows, and just a great guy to talk to for someone who has just had kind of a mercurial career.
29 years old, born in Minnesota, grew up in Scottsdale, 18th overall pick of the New York Mets in 2008 out of Arizona State. And we showed you the pictures of him in a Mets uniform in 2012, but he was the Mets Organizational Player of the Year in 2009 and had his first taste of the bigs the following year. This one is yanked down the right field line and it'll bounce off the wall. And holding at third is Borenstein. Tom Gamboa looked like he was waving around for a little bit, wanted to make sure to keep that pace up, but then at the last minute said, hold your horses.
Boy, that's one that you'd like to see get elevated right there. This ball was just absolutely tattooed. No chance to cut it off, and Ike really coming off the bench and doing something difficult, especially with that type of swing, barreling one up and just really stinging it and giving Israel a chance to put a little distance between themselves and Korea.
Well, that's a nice bat to have off the bench if you're Jerry Weinstein, and he used him. And Ike Davis rewarded his skipper with a 1-out double. And now Israel is in business here. Korea will play the infield in, with Borenstein on at third and Davis on at second. And this is something that we won't see too much. Well, we won't see it ever again in the major leagues, I suppose, is the 4-pitch intentional walk. But that rule change being made at the major league level, clearly not being implemented here in the World Baseball Classic. But nonetheless, the free pass will load the bases for Tyler Krieger.
You know, that is the other thing, you know, we've talked about, you know, speeding up play and the automatic base on balls. Like in this type of situation, just knowing from a former pitcher, is that you're walking to load the bases. So there really is no wiggle room, and you have to throw with a delivery and all 4 pitches deliberately well outside the strike zone and with less effort, and then have to come back. And you obviously want the count running in your favor with the very first pitch, and you have to come back in and just be locked in with that delivery, and it's showing you the challenges of just having to walk a guy and come back and really, in this situation, make a good pitch.
Big at bat for the 23-year-old, takes upstairs a ball and no strikes. And now for the 3rd inning in this game and 2nd consecutive, Israel has the bases loaded. They had scored a run before they got loaded in the 2nd inning, so I guess for sake of argument, they were unable to cash in the 2nd and got nothing in the 7th. What can they do in the 8th? Bases loaded, 1 out. The pitch. A called strike, 1-1. Krieger, as you see there, the number 18 prospect in the Indians organization, has the lone RBI for Team Israel with that bases loaded walk back in the 2nd. So I guess after saying that, I may have misspoke. They did cash in with the bases loaded, just not as much as they would have wanted to. But they have had their opportunities. At this point, they've left 8 men on base.
Well, it's not really a luxurious position for Lynn, but if he can get that fastball low on the inside part of the plate, it doesn't look like a strike to Krieger. I have no idea why in that situation with his good fastball, why he would be trying to spin one, especially when we talked about the challenges of getting acclimated to throwing breaking pitches, and this is when the volume is really turned up in the game on the line.
Bases loaded, 3-1 pitch coming. Already 8 walks today by Korea pitching. Fouled it straight back, 3-2.
He had a pitch middle away where he could get completely extended on, and he knows that he was not on a very hittable pitch.
Bornstein, Davis, and Lavarnway, your runners third to first. A 3-2 pitch coming to Krieger. Swings and fouls this one away into the seats down the left field line. Still 3-2.
That's the pitch I was talking about. In that situation, he had to be more center cut, but started more towards the inside part of the plate. But if he really trusts himself to just kind of bring it a little bit more on the inside part as far as finish, you see he's just kind of pulling on that inside seam, and it tailed more towards the middle of the plate. But if he starts it further inside, I think that's a tough pitch for Krieger to try to get a hold of.
And again, the payoff pitch. Little excuse me swing. They'll come home to get one. Throw to first, not in time. But a nice play by her, the defensive-minded third baseman, to throw home and get the lead runner 2 away.
Yeah, kind of a risky proposition to try to get 2 there, but with the infield playing in, it's just about making an accurate throw. I think in that situation where you worry about the catcher getting taken out in the process of making that throw, you try to clear home plate as quickly as possible and not worry about throwing it to first.
There will be another pitching change as Scott Burcham is due up with the bases loaded in a 1-1 game. We're back. Welcome back to Seoul, and a fan favorite, the only current major leaguer on the Team Korea roster, as Seung-Won Oh, the 34-year-old who has played in every WBC. So now make it 4 for him. Giving up only 3 hits and 6 2/3 across the 4 tournaments. Of course, the closer of the St. Louis Cardinals in a big spot here. Bases loaded for Scott Burcham. A big swing and a miss. And you can hear the crowd reaction on the first pitch from O. But during the break, we could hear the crowd reaction on every pitch he threw.
And just when he ran out to the mound.
Yeah. The 0-1 to Burcham.
Well, O's been in this type of situation many times before, and having the ability to, you just tell by the look in his eye, just control the heartbeat and the emotions, and knowing that it's just about executing and making pitches.
Another big swing from Burcham. And now a ball and 2 strikes.
And Burcham completely overmatched with that fastball down and away. That had a little giddy up on it. Burcham was underneath it, so that ball had some hop. It was a riding fastball.
Oh, struck out nearly 40% of the right-handed batters he faced last year. And he strikes out Burcham. For the 3rd time tonight, Israel leaves the bases loaded. It's getting late here in Seoul. And the crowd's warming up. We're tied at 1. Welcome back to Seoul. A big moment in the game just a few moments ago as Seung-Won Oh came in with the bases loaded. Got a big strikeout of Scott Burcham, who was just blown away to leave the bases loaded for Team Israel for the 3rd time in this game.
Boy, you talk about that and the pitch before, just threading the needle. And just absolutely no shot. The big hoss was in town right there.
Absolutely. And a new pitcher for Team Israel as Josh Zeid takes over. 29-year-old from New Haven, Connecticut, a 10th round pick of the Philadelphia Phillies in 2009. Sent to the Astros as part of the Hunter Pence deal in 2011. 6th pitcher of the night for Team Israel.
Pitched a lot and pitched well at the WBC qualifier in Brooklyn for Israel. Slider's his best pitch.
Misses low to Taekyung Kim, the DH, who is 0 for 3. A couple of strikeouts and a pop-up to his credit. 3, 4, and 5 due up for Team Korea in a 1-1 game. both teams have had their chances. Last 2 innings, Israel has left the bases loaded. Korea has had the leadoff hitter on in each of the last 3 innings.
Israel's pitching coach Andrew Lorraine talks about making competitive pitches, and these last 3 have not been. And that one was worse.
4 consecutive innings, the Team Korea has had the leadoff man aboard. And now it's Dae-Ho Lee.
Well, that's warranting a visit, because those pitches were not even close. And then you also have to remind yourself to be aggressive and not just try to find the strike zone again, because if you do, this guy's going to lose one.
Dae-Ho Lee with immense power, as he came up in the 4th inning. This is his 4th trip to the plate, as we've got a pinch runner for Team Korea, as Jae-Won Oh will come in. And Dae-Ho Lee grounded into a fielder's choice to end the 1st inning. Had an extra base hit taken away from him by Sam Fuld in the 4th, and then was up in one of the better scoring opportunities for Team Korea in the 5th. They had pushed a run across, but had their 3 and 4 hitters coming up. Both guys popped up and ended the threat. So Oh, the pinch runner, off of first. And here's why he comes in off the bench. 6 times in the top 10 in stolen bases in the KBO.
When you're talking about building a roster and having a guy in this type of situation, the score tied, even though you've got your best hitter up at the plate, but to make it a little easier for him. Be interesting to see if he is off and running, or if he'll wait to 2 strikes to try to run and stay out of the double play with a slow-footed hitter at the plate.
Off the end of the bat for Lee, and it's 0-2. 31 stolen bases the last 2 seasons ago, rather, for O. 13 last year. So a nice power speed combination for Team Korea. Big time pop at the dish in Lee, and the speed at first in O. Zide delivers an 0-2. Swing and a miss, and Lee is retired for out number 1.
Boy, a very unlike Dae-Ho Lee type swing. And the beauty of being able to get the count back to even. You don't see O take those types of swings very often. That pitch off the plate, and he just kind of was just really caught in between about what he wanted to do. Still kind of befuddled there.
Check on O as Asap San, the right fielder, digs in. San so far tonight is 1 for 3. Single to lead off the 6th. 1 on 1 out in the 1-1 game. Bottom 8, first game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Glad you're with us. Paul Severino and Joe McGrain. I don't think, Joe, we could have asked for a better opener to what is sure to be a fun 3 weeks of baseball around the world.
Boy, absolutely. And as far as this pool here in Seoul, this type of game, what we thought kind of the calling card for this entire bracket here in Seoul. Everyone evenly matched.
Swings towards center. Fuld plays it on a hop, and going to third is O. O read that one beautifully, and it looked like Fuld may have tried to deke him a little bit, but it falls in for the second hit of the night for Sun, and it's 1st and 3rd, and 1 away here in the 8th.
Just a humpback liner, Texas Leaguer into center field, and the runner with 2 outs, a chance to be a lot more aggressive. This ball not hit very hard at all. It was just kind of in on the hands. And when we were talking earlier about as great as the glove of Sam Fold, and you see with 2 outs, is not hesitating at all. But he missed all of last season with the left shoulder surgery. And for a brief moment with that little stumble old head coming around second, there was perhaps a chance to throw to third base, but it doesn't look like Sam Fold is in any type of throwing condition where he would really be able to air it out.
Great speed on the bases now for Correa with the go-ahead run 90 feet away. Told you the numbers on O at third, but 42 steals for Son last year, second in the KBO. He's on at first for Byung-Hoon Min, who's got a couple of hits in this ball game. Well, there have been no shortage of crucial moments the last few innings for both sides.
Boy, when you think about the idea, if Correa could score this go-ahead run with who they have coming back out for the 9th. Nice way to start the at-bat with the get-me-over breaking ball.
Big swing and a miss. No balls, 2 strikes.
And getting a little greedy there, just kind of bailing and wailing, pulling out on the front side.
Told you the 42 steals last year, 131 in 10 KBO seasons. Pitch to Min is outside, a ball and 2 strikes.
Kim, the Korean manager, just holding Son over at first base. He just has his hands on his knees like he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to risk to strike him out, throw him out.
Swung on, popped up, right field line. Will there be room? Off the netting. And a foul ball.
Yeah, that was interesting. If that ball would have been able to land, that would have been one that you'd think twice about wanting to catch it. About your ability to throw the tagging runner, who runs very well, out with the go-ahead run.
That's a good thought. And as I'm thinking here, it's almost a no-win situation, right? If you play it right like that and let the ball fall and foul, that's fine for the moment. But if the guy comes back, well, he may have a second chance here.
We'll go again.
Yeah. They do let it fall. I don't think they wanted to. And it falls foul. It's a long run for Krieger at second and Borenstein in right. And maybe some miscommunication as well.
Yeah, that was Borenstein thinking that it was going to be Krieger's ball all the way, and I think Krieger was just thinking because he had run so far, Borenstein really did not close the gap. There was not a lot of communication.
But again, a very similar play to the one just prior to that. It would have been a tough play, certainly for Krieger, perhaps even for Borenstein. Off of third, Son off of first. The pitch. Swung on, chopped to third. They'll come home. And now caught in between third and home is and he's tagged out by Lavarnway for out number 2.
Boy, a real quick split decision there about getting the out at home. It's all about that inner clock of the infielder. The ball gets to him rather quickly. You still think that even though the fast runner Son was at first base, that they had a chance to turn 2, but he did not want to take the gamble and get the out. He was very decisive. Never a moment did he want to try to get 2 in the middle. You have to be incredibly committed there with the go-ahead run at third base.
Pitching coach Andrew Lorraine out to talk with Josh Seid as In-Shik Kim, the manager of Team Korea, looks on. Boy, this has been a terrific start to the World Baseball Classic. 1-1 in the bottom of the 8th. Both teams have threatened. Neither opposition has blinked to this point. Aesop San is on at second base. Young Hoon Min is on at first. And Uiji Yang is the hitter. 1 for 3. He singled in the 6th. Zide deals in the dirt. Kept close enough by Lavarnway. No advance. 1-0.
Well, a good job of blocking that skidding breaking ball, and difficult for the runner at second base to really get the depth perception as to how far that went away. From second base in that angle, it looks like it's right next to the catcher.
The pitch. Strike. That is big league cheerleading in the middle of a game. Microphones and everything. Great atmosphere here in Seoul. Lots of opportunities for both clubs. 11 left on base for Team Israel. 7 for Korea.
That is a roster of men left on base.
Here's the pitch. Yang swings, lifts it down the right field line, off the netting and foul. Again, that netting goes all the way around the perimeter of the field. Balls that bounce into the netting, balls that are thrown into the netting are live balls. Balls like that, which get to the netting in the air, obviously dead balls. Something to keep in mind. Son, the runner on second, Min at first, and that one fouled back. Zide has had to work in this inning. 20 pitches. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs in a 1-1 game in the bottom of the 8th. Opener here in Pool A in Seoul. Zide deals. Yang swings, soft liner. Bertram puts it away. And we are headed to the 9th inning with this game tied at 1. Oh, this is going to be good. Don't go anywhere. We're back. Welcome back. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you here in Seoul, South Korea. Terrific ball game to kick things off. 1-1 headed to the 9th. And something to keep in mind beginning in the 11th if we get there. The rules are a little bit different. Whoever is supposed to lead off the inning will. The runners will be on first and second, though, the preceding runners to the scheduled leadoff hitter in that inning. Hope I've thoroughly confused you with those rules. Not sure if I delivered it as best I could, but we'll see how it goes. Quickly delivering there is O to Sam Fuld, and now 0-2. O came on in the 8th inning and got a big strikeout of Scott Bertram. Left the bases loaded, kept Israel off the scoreboard, and kept this game tied. Now the 0-2. Fuld with a base hit up the middle. His second hit in 5 trips, and he is aboard to lead it off here in the 9th.
That's been the most glaring thing, is every time he's come to the plate tonight, he has been right on time. From his first at bat, and everything has been right up the middle, and that's what you work on as a hitter, is trying to stay inside the ball, through the ball, to where the speed of the pitch has a lot to do with where you put the ball in play, but just everything right on time for Sam Fuld.
See how active Fuld is off of first with Ty Kelly at the plate. takes a called strike.
Other than that 0-2 pitch, you go back to last inning when O came into the game, and you're thinking about if Correa could score a run. This guy is clearly more high end than anyone else that's thrown for Correa by leaps and bounds, just in the quality and the location.
Fuld had a career high 21 stolen bases back in 2014. It was 21 of 25. And we'll see how aggressive Israel gets here with one on to lead it off in the 9th. O deals and misses, 2-1. Runner was on the move as Kelly fouled that one away. This is the part of the lineup that Jerry Weinstein is going to utilize that speed. Third base coach Tom Gamboa dishing out the signs to Sam Fuld and Ty Kelly. Something to keep in mind is that O allowed just 2 stolen bases last year in just 3 attempts.
It's real unusual for closers because those are the guys that are typically the easiest to steal off. You think of the, one of the greatest in Mariano Rivera. Had that slow, languid delivery and incredibly easy to steal off of. There just weren't many of those situations available.
Nobody was ever on base against the guy. It'll be a 2-2. Fuld stays put and Kelly strikes out. 1 away.
That's what I was talking about, the leaps and bounds of quality of pitches that have been better than any of Korea's pitchers until O came into the game. That hard, biting, cut fastball moving a little bit towards like a slider.
So now it's Blake Galen. Struck out in the first, singled in the third, walked and lined out.
With
a big swing and a miss.
Bugs Bunny changeup.
Lots of strikeouts last year for O coming out of that St. Louis Cardinals bullpen. Everybody looking up at Dellin Betances. Galen swings and fouls this one back, and it was Galen's at bat back in the 7th inning. Israel had the bases loaded, and it was a close pitch, but from the low third base camera well, we saw the pitch may have been a little bit lower than the kneecap, and that would have been ball 4, and that would have brought in the second Israel run. Instead, Galen lined out, and the inning was over, as was the threat. Not his best swing, and 3 strikeouts for O.
Boy, it's more about Sam Fuld getting that hit and how hot he is tonight, because Sunwon O is just nasty. These guys have no chance. Look at this. Check swing in between, trying to get your back leg out of the way as the ball's breaking. And in facing Nate Fryman with a bigger swing, will he be able to catch up to this?
Fryman 0 for 3. He walked and scored the only Israel run back in the second. That's in there for a strike. Now 0-2.
This guy is a machine.
The lone big leaguer on Team Korea's roster. He has proven to be a force. Straight back as Fryman stays alive.
I mean, he can do one of 2 things here: throw that fastball away or sweep a little slider away. And I don't think either pitch Fryman would have much of a chance.
Fold off at first, the pitch. This is away to Fryman, 1-2.
Tried to get out there, just over-borrowed a little bit.
It'll be a 1-2 coming to Fryman. Swings. It's a good hop over there at short. Inning over. Correa will have a chance to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th inning. We are tied at 1 in the WBC opener. Welcome back to Gochok Skydome here in Seoul, South Korea. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. Boy, oh boy, this has been a terrific ball game. 1-1 going to the bottom of the 9th inning. And Team Korea playing host in pool play for the first time in 4 WBCs. They have a chance to walk things off against Josh Zeid and Team Israel. Both teams have had their chances in the second half of this ball game. It'll be 8-9-1 due up for Korea as the first pitch from Zeid to Kyung-Min Hur is in there for a called strike. Mentioned off the top that Hur is the defensive-minded third baseman for Korea. Suk-Min Park is their offensive-minded third baseman, so he is a weapon off the bench. This one, a routine play to Bertram at short for out number 1.
Well, earlier in the game, Israel did not do a very good job with the bottom of the order, and not only nice to get the leadoff man out, but the number 8 hitter out, with the 9 hitter coming to the plate.
So now it's Jae-Ho Kim, 0 for 1. He's been hit by a pitch twice in this ball game. Number 9 hitter and shortstop for Team Korea.
See if he flinches this time.
Not at all. He's out there ready to hit. Swings and misses, and it's 0-1. Well, if they're all like this, this is going to be a wild ride for 3 weeks. Fouled back 0-2. Mentioned the threat of Suk-Min Park off the bench for Team Korea. Also, Young-Woo Choi is another guy to keep in mind. And I'm sure the manager In-Shik Kim has done that. Choi is a big-time bat for this team, but he really struggled in the exhibitions. Was dropped in the order and clearly did not make the cut for the opener, as there are now 2 away. Like Zeid might have quick pitched him there too, but he'll take it nonetheless. 2 outs.
Kim was big time tardy right there. You have to get ready to hit, get ready to be in the hitting position. And he's just kind of into his warm up, and it's like, oh, here it comes. And you're right, he did get the best of him with a little quick pitch.
Josh Zeid continues to work. That was pitch number 27. Something to keep in mind. If he gets to 30, he will not be available tomorrow. Team Israel will need to sleep quick, as it's a little before 10:30 local time here in Seoul. And they are back at it at noon. Pitch number 29. Center fielder Lee looks at a ball in the dirt, goes all the way to the backstop. Now 3 balls and no strikes. So again, with his next pitch, just to have it all out in front of you. If you throw 2 days in a row in the WBC, you need a day of rest. If you throw 30 or more pitches, you need 1. Kept talking about that magical 49 number for Jason Marquis, because if you get to 50, you need 4 days off. Jerry Weinstein keeping Jason Marquis under the 50 pitch plateau, so Marquis could come back But with that pitch, Josh Zeid knows that he'll have tomorrow off. Might be the only one getting a good night's sleep. Although not if he's the one who surrenders the winning run. As he issues the walk to Lee, it's So, who's got a couple of hits, including the lone RBI back in the 5th. Action in the bullpen for Team Israel as Dylan Axelrod loosens up. So swings and fouls that one away.
Well, just in case the outfielders have to play a little deeper, more in kind of a no doubles type format to prevent a guy who can run well at first base from scoring. Try to make everything a long single.
Another check on Lee, who had 21 steals last year. He's also caught 11 times. Trying to keep him honest. And it won't take much with this fast track for a ball anywhere near the gap to scoot to the wall.
And another reason to play deep.
The 0-1, a bluff and a foul ball, 0-2. And with 2 outs, just how concerned should Zeid be with Lee at first?
Well, he should be concerned enough to make him stop and to make sure that he does not have the ability to take liberties with a very large lead, but it can't be taken away from the concentration at the plate to where he'd make a mistake out over the plate, risk an extra base hit, and it'd all be over. Whoa!
That was close over at first. But the first base umpire, Francek Pribel from the Czech Republic, says he got back in time. That was close.
Doesn't get any closer than that. Was safe.
Fryman may have tagged the dirt instead of the arm. The 0-2 coming.
It's one of those pickoffs where it would help to be a left-handed first baseman. Just let the ball travel and just drop the mitt on it.
Check on Lee at first.
Keith Hernandez used to be lethal at that drop tag like that.
Runner goes. Lavarnway's throw right on the money. Got him. And we're going to extra innings in the first game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Lavarnway throws a strike down to second base. And we got some free baseball here in Seoul. 1-1. What a way to open up the 2017 WBC. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain with you. We are off to the top of the 10th inning here in Seoul. Israel and Korea tied at 1. 8th pitcher of the night for Team Korea as Chang Yong Lim, a 40-year-old making his second trip to the WBC, is on to pitch. He pitched in 5 games in the 2009 tournament, had a .338 ERA with a couple of saves. Signed with the Cubs out of Korea in 2012 and pitched in 6 games for the Cubbies in 2013. Something to keep in mind too as we were going through the pitch limitations. Seung-Won Oh got to 20 pitches, so he would be available for tomorrow, rules-wise, of course, for Team Korea.
Lim is 40 years old, and to think the nastiness of what his stuff used to be, throwing 98, 99 with a side-wheeling arm action in his prime, that must have been something to see.
Zach Borenstein leads off and takes outside. 1 ball and no strikes. Borenstein doubled in the second. That was the inning in which Israel scored their lone run on a bases loaded walk. Since then, Borenstein has struck out twice and walked. Lim played in the Asian Games in 1998, 2000, and 2014. His KBO career spanned from 1999 to 2007. Then he went over to Japan to play in Nippon Professional Baseball.
He has that pause in his delivery when his hands go behind his head, much in the same way that Chinese Taipei Chen Ming Wang back in the day used to pitch like. Right there.
After Borenstein, it's Ike Davis and Ryan Lavarnway. So no shortage of power for Team Israel due up here in the 10th. And the extra inning rules do not kick in until we get to the 11th. If we get to the 11th. Now the 3-1 line. Oh man,
Wow.
that ball might have caught her at third and not the other way around, and he is trying to collect himself, but man, oh man.
Yeah, he kind of cupped that one a little bit to secure it. And man, we've already talked about how fast the infield is. Not only that, the hot corner, and a ball just completely stung by Borenstein.
Well, he's known for his defense, and that might have been more self-defense, but he makes the play nonetheless, and here's Ike Davis.
He used armor on that one.
Here's another look.
Play that position, you can't be afraid of the ball.
And still gathers himself and hits Borenstein by a step.
Very easily could have olayed that one.
It's Ike Davis' second trip to the plate. He came on as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning and doubled. Not happy with that strike call, saying he went around. It's the check by DJ Rayburn over there at third base. The umpire says yes, he did. And the count 1-1. Big swing and a miss for Ike Davis.
Ike wanting to tune up the dial a little bit. He was a little bit in between on the check swing. So he tells himself to wait a little bit like a lot of hitters do, and then you end up waiting too much.
A ball and 2 strikes to Ike Davis. And that one will bounce all the way to the backstop. So those of you watching in the United States, it's 8:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 on the West Coast. Fans of Team Israel watching in Tel Aviv, 3:30 in the afternoon. And here in Korea, local time, about 10:30 in the evening. And boy, oh boy, I say that because the afternoon is going to come early for Team Israel. They are back at it at noon local time tomorrow against Chinese Taipei. And we'll be here with you.
Say if Lim comes back with that fastball after just really opening Ike Davis up with that breaking ball, spun him around, got a check swing, a fastball thrown by him, and Lim doing a real good job of using everything at his disposal, and changing speeds as well.
2-2 pitch from Lim. This is low. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Again, Ike Davis coming in off the bench today, but I'm sure depending on lefty righty, Ike Davis will get his fair share of starts and at-bats and playing time for Team Israel here in Seoul. Payoff pitch coming from Lim. This is inside, and Israel has a base runner with 1 out. Barry Weinstein, the manager, on the left. Tom Gamboa, the third base coach, on the right. Talking a little bit of strategy here with Davis on at first and Ryan Lavarnway coming up to the plate. Lavarnway has been walked a couple of times today. An intentional pass in the 8th. Certainly has the power to give Israel a lead here in the 10th inning.
He has to be hoping to run into one. Ike Davis clogging the bases over there at first base, not really taking much of a lead at all.
As you see Team Korea with Jang and Park loosening up in the bullpen. Lavarnway went 5 for 12 with a homer and 3 RBIs in the qualifier for Team Israel back in September. And now lines a shot toward the left center field gap. Davis will head towards third. Here comes the throw, and not in time. First and third for Team Israel here in the 10th.
Boy, that's just really not something that you thought would be plausible, is Ike Davis being able to go all the way from first to third, but the ball was just enough to the center fielder's right to give him ample opportunity. Lavarnway able to get some real good extension there, and one thing Ike did is he was very committed. A little hitch in his giddy up coming around second. That just kind of came out of nowhere, that little rally, after that hard hit ball by Borenstein at third base.
Well, they have been used to these situations where they've had runners on base. They left single runners on in the 5th and 6th before leaving the bases loaded in the 7th and the 8th. They also left 1 on in the 9th. So Team Israel, who's pumped out 7 hits, has had opportunities and been unable to cash in. Tyler Krieger has the lone RBI, earned it on a bases loaded walk back in the 2nd.
You think that Israel has only scored 1 run on 8. Korea pitching staff walks. 9 now.
Davis on at third, Lavarnway at first, and Tyler Krieger is your hitter. Lim deals. Krieger is spun around as he showed the bunt. A little squeeze situation here, perhaps, as once again we update the numbers. Neither team has been able to cash in with runners in scoring position. 0 for 6 for Israel, 1 for 8 for Korea.
I've seen Joe Madden with the Rays and Cubs employ this play a lot. First and third with 1 out, and just and this with the pinch running change makes the play a little bit more plausible. Just a push bunt over to the first base side, just getting it down where Dae-Ho Lee is at first base, and it's almost an impossible play if you get it down to defend.
Mike Myers is the pinch runner on at third as he takes over for Ike Davis.
Kind of a safety squeeze, if you will.
Big cut for Krieger. 1-1.
And Krieger tardy on that one.
Myers, the 23-year-old from Las Vegas, the 12th round pick of the Red Sox in 2012, off at third. Ryan LaVarnway is off at first. And a 1-1 coming. Now he pops up the bunt, and Lim will make the catch, 2 away. So they teased it. He got spun around on the first pitch, didn't on the second, tried it again on the third, and he pops it up.
Yeah, watch how the bat goes down, the barrel of the bat goes down, and when that happens, the ball goes up. And you just have to, as someone who practices as a pitcher, the sacrifice bunting and about having to really stay on top of the ball. I mentioned it earlier in the game, what a lost art that it is. And especially hitting at the bottom of the order, you have to be able to have that kind of play at your disposal. Because it should be a high percentage play, just a push bunt to the right side to push that run across at third.
So now it's Scott Burcham, who's played some really good defense at shortstop. But now Team Israel relying on his bat with runners on the corners and 2 outs. And while things have been hard to come by for both teams to this point, if we should get to the 11th, business will certainly pick up. Again, mention the rules once you get to the 11th. Whoever's scheduled to lead off will lead off, but the preceding 2 batters in the order will be on first and second. So there will certainly be some action. This one is skied down the right field line and off the netting. 1-1. Mike Myers, the pinch runner on at third. LaVarnway off of first. Lim working. This will be his 20th pitch of the inning. Here comes the 1-1. Burcham swings and misses. And it was Burcham who was up in the 8th inning, the first batter that O came on to face.
Another one of those arm strokes and arm slots where the velocity is a lot more effective than what the reading is. That's why the gun is less and less valuable. The hitter will tell you how fast or how real and effective the velocity is. Burcham tardy on that one.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. A 1-1 game, top 10 here in Seoul. Lim deals. Grounded. Nice play at second. Can he make the play? No throw, and Israel has a 2-1 lead on the infield single by Scott Burcham. A nice effort there by So, but a tough play. And he just puts the ball in his back pocket. An infield knock gives Israel the lead.
Boy, and to think that that's how it was a run produced for Israel. We've talked this entire game about how fast the track is. So with a great pickup, with the hesitation about thinking about second base, and Burcham running well enough to where there was no choice at first.
So now LaVarnway moves to second with Burcham on at first, and the leadoff hitter, Sam Fuld, digging in. His 6th trip to the plate, and he takes a called strike. 2 for 5 with both of those singles coming in his last 2 at-bats in the 7th and the 9th. And it should come as no surprise, those of you familiar with his major league resume, he's already had a nice defensive play in this ball game as well. An 0-1 from Lim.
When Lim really commits to that fastball, it gets deep on Israel's hitters.
See what decision is made for Team Israel. We saw Dylan Axelrod warming up earlier. Josh Zeid has already thrown a couple of innings, so you'd figure that Zeid's night is done, and that maybe Dylan Axelrod gets a chance to close it out for Team Israel. Certainly would like a little more insurance before making that call, but Lim misses outside, a ball and 2 strikes. And it is still Axelrod loosening. Of course, that's underneath, so we can't quite see it from our vantage point here behind home plate. One and 2 to Fold. Chopped to second. This one a much more routine play for So, but it's an infield single off the bat of Scott Burcham that gives Israel a 2-1 lead as we head to the bottom of the 10th here in Seoul. Welcome back to Seoul. It was an infield single off of Scott Burcham's bat that has given Israel a 2-1 lead as we move to the bottom of the 10th inning. In-Shik Kim hoping that Korea has a rally. They have had their chances. Both teams have had their chances throughout this ball game. But Jerry Weinstein's bunch right now has the lead. They also have a new pitcher. No, they don't have a new pitcher. We had debated whether or not Dylan Axelrod was going to come in the ball game, and it's going to be Josh Zeid out for his 3rd inning of work.
Been sweeping that slider tonight. That's his go-to pitch, and a couple of times where kind of falls out of his delivery behind in the count. Was able to make a couple of pitches.
So Zeid will face 2, 3, and 4 for Korea as Gun Cheng Sao takes a called strike. Again, mentioned it before, a couple of weapons off the bench for Korea, whether or not manager Kim goes to Sukmin Park or Young Woo Choi. Time will certainly tell, but he does have threats on the bench.
Boy, what an incredible dodge this would be to go through this part of the order.
Line. Burcham makes the play. Man, oh man. He has had a lot of balls hit his way, and this another in a long line of great plays.
This line drive just having just enough hang on it to look how far that Burcham goes. About 3 quick strides and gets it right before it touches the ground.
And now this is Jae-Won Oh, who came on as a pinch runner in the 8th inning.
Even more so the importance of getting the leadoff man out with a chance to leave Dae-Ho Lee in the on-deck circle.
And I guess no one knows a team like his manager, but just from what we know and what we've heard and read, makes you scratch your head a little bit as to say, why not use the big bats off the bench? But again, In-Shik Kim knows his club way more than we do. So he stays with O here with a 1 out in the 10th, and it's now 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Wondering if Zeid thought that was the 3rd strike. He was walking around behind the mound like he thought, hey, got losing track of time. The count.
I'm not sure if O didn't think the same thing either. He kind of had a look of, oh man, but gets another crack. This one misses upstairs. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
That's just the kind of stuff that Jerry Weinstein makes you kind of bite your nails a little bit, because you see these pitches that are just way out of the strike zone, and then he comes back in. He seems to just be able to make that important pitch when he needs to. And I mentioned Dae-Ho Lee just looming large in more ways than one in the on-deck circle. Korea down by 1. No trying to get on base.
And Joe, something else to keep in mind, as Zide is at 43 pitches, Jerry Weinstein certainly knows what he's doing. He's got to keep Zide at under 50 pitches, because if Zide gets to 50, he'll need 4 days rest and basically be done for the tournament. He gets the big strikeout there of 0 for out number 2. But now the question is, what do you do?
Well, this was just one of those I'm not going to walk you, and here you go.
And I say, what do you do? Because Zide's rolling along. That's his 3rd strikeout. He's feeling pretty good. He's got a good rhythm. You got to get one more out. Axelrod, you figure, is warmed up. Dae-Ho Lee takes a big swing for strike 1.
Boy, he is really trusting Josh Zide here to go up against Dae-Ho Lee. It has not been a good night for him. We've seen him, unlike himself, chase a lot of pitches outside of the strike zone, like that one.
And now 0-2. Team Korea down to their last strike on their home soil in the opener of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. It has been a good one. Glad you're with us. The 0-2 from Zide. And a big piece of Lavarnway. And now a ball and 2 strikes. And now Jerry Weinstein and Andrew Lorraine, they are walking a high wire act in terms of losing Zide for the rest of the tournament. Or not the tournament, I shouldn't say tournament, rest of the pool play. If he gets to 50 pitches, that was number 48.
This is a guy that pitched and was featured very prominently in the WBC qualifier, and one of the guys that can pitch in a multitude of roles for Israel. One of the reasons why they're here.
Dae-Ho Lee strikes out, and Team Israel wins it 2-1 in 10 innings. And how about that? It works out perfectly for Jerry Weinstein, as Zide throws 49 pitches and stays alive. He'll be able to, if the teammates don't knock him onto the disabled list, he'll be able to come back with a little bit of rest here in Seoul. But Israel puts together a rally in the 10th to take a 2-1 lead. And they ultimately win the game 2-1 to take the opener of the WBC.
Some pitches are bigger than the other. The game ends with Korea's best hitter at the plate expanding the strike zone twice, and some pitches are bigger than others from the standpoint of Josh Zide making one less than to basically eliminate him from this pool. One pitch under the maximum. Wow.
Well, it works out for Team Israel. And obviously Korea, we talked about it in the open. It's the first time that they are hosting pool play. They are a country, obviously different players along the way, but they are a country that's 14-5 coming into this tournament. They've lost in the semis. They've lost in the finals. The first round exit last time around. Israel's first WBC. How big of an upset is this 2-1 win for Israel?
Well, Israel came into Korea with how they had played in the qualifier and all the things that they've accomplished in a short span of time. It is a very tight-knit group, but you look at this game just on its face, and the Korea pitching staff walked 9 Israeli hitters, and we're still able to be around and take this into extra innings and only give up 2 runs. There were plenty of opportunities for Israel to win this earlier, and I have to think that they feel very fortunate to pull off this upset.
And every game so crucial in the World Baseball Classic, perhaps even more so in this pool, where any one of these 4 teams or any 2 of these 4 teams have as good a chance of any to move on to Tokyo. But for now, in the opener, it's Israel winning this one 2-1 in 10 innings and avoiding what could have been a really interesting 11th inning and beyond with the rules. But they get through it in 10, win it nonetheless. A 2-1 victory for Team Israel in the opener. They will sleep quickly because they have got to come back. A doubleheader here in Seoul tomorrow. Israel gets the early game against Chinese Taipei at noon local time, and Korea gets the Kingdom of the Netherlands at 6:30 local time. What a way to kickstart the 2017 World Baseball Classic. The atmosphere here in Seoul has been great. Just the tip of the iceberg, I'm sure. It's going to be a fun time covering the action from Seoul. For Joe McGrain, our entire crew, I'm Paul Severino saying thanks so much for watching. Again, we'll be back. Israel and Chinese Taipei at noon local time. Check your local listings for what time that'll be on in your area. 2-1 the final. Israel the winner.